We're live. I mean, they'll be here soon. I'm sorry, you guys. Let's just try this again.
Hello. Welcome to the Exatus.
And we're back. Well, David will be here in a second, but he's actually stepping in with Alex Fulton from the Cryptocubrology. So there's actually going to be a little bit more going on. I sent the link to Vigil. He might be here as well. But I'm here with Eddie and Thomas together. How are you guys doing?
Doing awesome, man.
Awesome.
Not as awesome as you think. You only think you're doing awesome. You're not doing quite as awesome as you could be. You could be doing like the west coast of France, narco-tourism awesome. You know what I'm talking about? Have you heard about this?
Narco-tourism?
So France issued a narco-tourism alert, which has to be fun. A bunch of cocaine washed up on the shores of Biarritz, Brest, all the way along the coast. I think they've got something like 2 tons of cocaine washing up across Normandy.
Normandy. Talk about invasion, huh?
Yeah, dude, it's the cocaine invasion. I don't know. This has been a big thing in Western Europe because Brazil to West Africa up to France and England. If you want to know how much cocaine they do in England, just go to any bathroom. And I don't know if you really want to rub your finger along the urinal bars, but you'll find that there's cocaine in the water, right? I think the tap water. As much as we've got antidepressants, they have cocaine.
And I've been clubbing for so many years that I all my European friends all said that the shit over there is so bad. It's cut so many times. You're literally just doing 100% baby powder
in Britain
or laxative, whatever.
Where at?
Yeah, in London. Yeah, the crap is really bad over there. But I don't know. That was during the early 2000s, But maybe things are different now.
Yeah, they're extra healthy from all the niacin.
Yeah, I think that's changed a lot. Cocaine trafficking, Britain, 2010. What's up, Visual? How you doing? Good to see you, Chris.
What?
We were just about cocaine trafficking because that's a great way to start the show. But basically, what I remember hearing was that there's just tons of cocaine trafficking that started in the early 2010s, especially going through West Africa and the European Union because France has certain states in West Africa, or at least along the coast, and Spain also has some islands. So the trafficking of cocaine made cocaine much cheaper in Europe in the 2010s and after 2012 because they no longer need to traffic it through suitcases with British tourists, which was the thing, right? It's always a tourist. He's got a bag and then they spend 2 years in jail as the fall lady or guy.
Yeah.
That's not as big of a thing anymore because they just completely they have these. Here you go.
Yeah, and also back in the days, the cocaine usually go through the Eastern Europe route. You usually go through you hear about Serbian or not Algerian but Albanian mafia. They're doing some of the biggest ones.
The CIA involvement in the Contra cocaine trafficking is far more nuanced than people realize. It doesn't just have to do with the Here we go. David, good to see you, David, as well. Good to have you. Let me see if I can I'll put you there. Chris, don't feel bad. It'll all sort itself out in a second. All right. CIA, Nicaraguan Civil War, la 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 la. But also the socialists, they were worried about the communists, and they figured out how to get the Eastern Europeans addicted to cocaine, and they used cocaine as a sort of Bitcoin because you could actually use it as a sort of money. It was a solid currency that was actually pretty durable. So cocaine trafficking became very important. But after the fall of the Soviet Union into the 2010s, it became much easier just to connect directly through Spain and France and through Corsica and Greece as well. But I think Greece has had some problems with cocaine trafficking recently. Like they've been suppressed by EU standards. And so most of the cocaine has been coming through Spain and through France and South France, Marseille.
And also technology's gotten much better now. Now with a lot of submarines. That's the way most of them were shipped. That's why they wash ashore, because a submarine released them, from under the water.
It's pretty interesting when you look into the GPS systems and how long that they've had GPS systems, and the correlation with the CIA directly to cocaine trafficking. By the way,
were you talking about Cocaine Bear before you went here? And is Cocaine Bear in a Russian communication thing there?
We're definitely going to go to Russian bears. That's smart. But I was starting with the French. Because Normandy, we had the beaches of Normandy were invaded by 2 tons of cocaine this last week. And so they've issued a narco-tourism alert for to worry off the salvagers trying to find these wares, essentially.
That'll scare them off. Free cocaine all over the beach. Definitely don't go.
Well, the French police are kind of intense. Don't get me wrong. Like, France is chill, but their police are intense. Like,
I tell you,
they have shields, and they just beat these glass shields as they run at you after football games. It's kind of brutal.
When I lived in Mexico, I was living in Playa del Carmen, and that's where a lot of people will see the speedboats. Like, when they're getting caught by the Coast Guard in Mexico, they dump all these bricks that start float to the beach. These big orange bricks, and some old lady found one and brought it to town, and people trying to share it. The whole village was trying to share the darn thing, but it's because for a long time the whole Caribbean route was shut down, because U.S. Coast Guard basically virtually severed now it's all land based, right? Trafficking, but now it's reopened basically. You go straight to Florida, straight to the Keys and all that stuff. But
the Keys,
I picked a bad time to not live in Normandy.
Keys,
Locals in
the Keys
villages
are lovely
along
this
Normandy.
Sorry.
No, it's good. Locals in villages along the Normandy coast have described an influx of unfamiliar people in luxury cars and 4x4s who have been scouring the sand this week. Philippe Astrus, a local prosecutor, issued a public warning on Friday about the risks of taking part in what he describes as narco-tourism. The act of taking possession of one of these bundles and transporting it is a crime and carries a punishment of up to 10 years in prison. Furthermore, the cocaine posed a serious health risk because it was likely to be 80 to 90% pure.
That's a humble brag.
All right, so here's the
10% fentanyl.
Pablo Escobar. Let's do it. Okay. So how do you want to go about this? So there's a bunch of people recently talking about the cocaine bear, and it is interesting that cocaine is sinking in real life with reality emulates fiction, something to that effect. But Pablo Escobar, the real story behind the cocaine bear, the idea that he was responsible for the cocaine that somehow fell. There was a guy who was killed in the plane and the whole story. But then the bear, you brought up the Russian bear. And it seems like the Russian bear is killed by the cocaine, which is what happened in the Soviet Union, right? They were kind of destroyed a lot, according to inside CIA documents, with cocaine. They got them to become addicted to cocaine, and they exploited them. For instance, the Afghanistan conflict got a lot of the generals to take cocaine instead of rations for their troops.
Well, the thing about it is cocaine is actually now having some trouble because the dollar is dropping. You guys notice that we're down to 17 pesos per dollar right now? It's been free falling from 20 since the beginning of this year.
Is that how you measure in pesos? I have no idea.
It's 17 pesos. That's a huge drop. I sent some money to my in-laws, because my father-in-law is
it's bigger than that.
But I don't want to send it to him anymore. So wait a second, it's eating away my
The
fortune.
ruples went down dramatically, and I don't know what's going on with that
Well,
now.
RuPaul's is Russia is in big trouble right now. I mean, Russia really needs China to help them because
Speaking of the bear thing, is that it's funny that Zelensky was the voice of Paddington Bear for
there you
for a
go.
variety of symbolic reasons there.
Right.
Well, I have no doubt the Ukrainians are um, heavily involved in that trade.
Did you see Paddington 2?
Have I seen it? No, no.
I
heard
happen
it's
to like
amazing,
both
though.
of the Paddington movies. You can say what you want about that, but I thought they were both delightful.
So first off, my parents always kind of call me Paddington Bear because I lived in Peru, and so they joke about how I'm like my dad I'd call from the internet, and he'd be like, how are things down in deepest darkest Peru, right? So there's always kind of been in the background, and then there's this movie with Nick Cage, The Unbearable Weight of Talent, whatever.
Yeah, the unbearable weight of a massive talent,
which is a play on the unbearable lightness of being, right? Which was about
Czechoslovakia during during the Yugoslavian Prague Spring and Velvet Underground, or what do they call it? Or something like that. Something like the Velvet Revolution because of the Velvet Underground. They're definitely syncing with New York records. But this movie, they're constantly talking about how you have to see Paddington 2. How Paddington 2 is.
That's where I got it. I was trying to remember what the movie was where they said it was amazing. I was like, somebody said that was excellent. But yeah, you're right. I saw it in a movie.
That's weird. And it has a lot to do with Queen Elizabeth too, right? I mean,
right.
Before
So
she died,
he gets arrested falsely for a crime he doesn't commit, and he ends up in the British underground, and he becomes friends with the British. First off, all the British criminals hate him because he does the laundry wrong and dyes their clothes pink. But then after they start wearing pink, he teaches the cook how to make marmalade. And once they discover marmalade, they love Paddington Bear. And I can't help but feel like there's more to this. It's just not just a metaphor or a cute little kid's movie.
It probably syncs with Adam Hart Mother when in Alan's Psychedelic Breakfast, he goes like, marmalade. I like marmalade. I want to see how that lines up.
And there was that commercial too with Queen Elizabeth eating marmalade with Paddington. Remember? And then everybody said that's not the queen. They said that the queen is already dead. So they said it's a CGI Queen Elizabeth.
Wait, there's a commercial with Paddington Bear and the Queen? Yeah, I did not know that. What? Yeah, okay. So
that one. So they said this is a CG queen. She already died.
Why Paddington? Why? This is just so brutal. And like the whole point of Paddington is that he comes from an advanced bear civilization in Peru that was destroyed in that Medicine Man movie with Sean Connery.
Wait, this is a Jubilee video.
That's
weird as hell. So wait a minute. I'm looking at symbolism right now. I'm like, you got Zelensky sitting across from the Queen as the Russian bear with the Jubilee. Like I feel like it's hitting all the points. I'm sorry, because like the significance of the Jewish Jubilee is the forgiving of the debt and the releasing of the slaves every 50 years, while England has their like Jubilee celebration, which just seems to just be a celebration of their own power and wealth, and nothing ever changes.
Go back to the picture. Look at the color that she's dressed in, yellow and blue, right?
Oh wow!
Here we go. Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of coding going on.
Dang, lady,
she looks lovely. And you know what? Did you guys see that newer South Park where it's like, I guess Meghan Merkel or whatever had responded. There was a headline that said she was overwhelmed by it, and I'm just like, wow, you guys, direct target making fun of the freaking
the Privacy World Tour.
Right. So which princess? What's his name? Excuse me. So yeah. So Harry had in his autobiography this thing about his dick and some ointment with his mom, and then so like they just like ripped on him while he's taking his dick out and rubbing it on the window or whatever of who's it? It's Kyle's house, because they move across the street and they're like, we want privacy, but they're doing like a privacy tour. So it's like the whole joke. It's like, dude, you share the most intimate details about your life and then say that how badly you need privacy. You know, it's just,
I lost my virginity to this farm girl. Privacy. So some crazy heavy machinery operating big woman.
Unmute yourself, Andreas.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking before. I worried a bit when I saw this, though. I always do with South Park, that sometimes the joke is it downplays something really important to me. And this was not a big deal all the time, but there's a few things some of the time that seems very...
Wait a minute. Are you offended?
I feel like this should have gone deeper at the severity of their taking over the underworld. Like it should have also included that he was secretly running like cockfights, or something like that.
Oh, I see where you're going with it. Yeah.
There's a reason too. I was recently thinking a lot about Edward the Eighth, and if you remember, there was a king for a few days, and he was basically from June, whatever. Basically,
he married an American too.
There's a lot more important than just that. But that's true. No, that's the sync. That's true. That's important. What I was going to say though is a lot of people only remember him for that. They don't seem to think about the fact that he was involved with the Nazis. And there's a lot of information coming out. Where does it go back a bit? Nazi sympathizer was trying to help with these corporatist agendas. Who were the Nazis? They were working with IBM, Coca-Cola, et cetera, et cetera. So he was working with the privatization of the elite wealth outside of the royal. And he didn't really want to be part of the royal family. He was still with the royal family, but he wanted to be, instead of the king, he wanted to be the kingpin, right?
Can we just see that picture of the Queen Hylian as a baby, or not a baby, but a little girl, please?
Where was that at? Oh yeah. Queen Hylian.
It's just so iconic, Yeah.
Is that how many look for it? Young?
No, that when she was young, she was like a young girl.
Yeah. Well, if you look
at, does Google not? Oh, DuckDuckGo. Maybe they don't want you to see that.
Andreas, why didn't you go to? Why didn't you go to this?
Baby. She wasn't a baby. She was just a little girl, and she's totally Hylian. Come on. Yeah, no, this is a search censorship thing. I'm pretty sure.
Go to Queen Elizabeth and her father doing the hail. See Hill.
Yeah, they're doing it together. It's like a whole. Oh, there's one. The son. Yeah.
Family thing.
Yeah. There you go. There she is with her arm up. Yeah.
That was what kids did back then, right?
Well, that was the Roman salute. No, didn't kids used to say the Pledge of Allegiance in the States like that too?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Right.
Maybe it's another stolen hand.
No, but there was an allegiance because there's a lot of people married in at that point. They were allies initially, this, and so it's also the basis for that movie, Full Circle, also called The Haunting of Julia. When it's too complex to go into, but there's what was that early John Lennon movie, How I Won the War? They make all kinds of jokes about it, about England and Germany's alliance, and then the shift that happened, so it's a whole thing.
What's another good movie to watch is John Borman. What's that movie? The Days of Glory, something like that. What's that movie about? World War II, and then the Nazi boy parachuted into London, and all the girls fell in love with him.
I know that one. I thought you were going to say Paths of Glory, and you're confused. But no, okay, no.
He's so industrial.
Is that what it is?
This probably doesn't sync. But, just after this perhaps plane crash full of cocaine, ex-Clinton lawyer killed by severe turbulence on plane. And our hearts go out to the family. I can't remember the last fatality due to turbulence, says top aviation officials. Private aircraft was owned by a company headed by ex-White House staffer's spouse.
Where did she take off from?
Dana J. Hyde, 55, was one of 5 passengers on board the DC-bound aircraft from New Hampshire on Friday. When it diverted to Bradley International Airport in Connecticut after encountering turbulence.
But no, there's something about the name of the airport or something. I thought I
haven't worn my special shirt for this, by the way. Have you seen it? By the way, this is one of my favorite shirts. I wore this all day around Santa Cruz. Some people were like, "Oh, you know what I mean?" Like, can't tell.
Thanks, Obama.
Yeah.
Print it. But it wasn't. She was also part of the 9/11. What do you call it? The investigations. 9/11. What do you call it? I'm forgetting.
9/11
Warren Commission. I know I'm so out of it tonight too, dude. Don't worry.
Commission. She served on the 9/11 Commission. The exact cause of death is still being investigated. Blah da da. But okay. Clinton body count jokes.
Yeah, I was gonna say that the Clinton body count. There's definitely a sync here because we started out talking about cocaine smuggling, and my introduction to cocaine smuggling was through the Mena, Arkansas scandal, where they were dropping the bales of cocaine, and the 2 teenagers found it and went and got themselves killed. Suicide in the back of the head or whatever.
Gary Webb got killed too for reporting that.
God, so the other day I was listening to this song on the radio. It was like Arkansas, Arkansas. I just love old Arkansas from Big River musical. It's been stuck in my head for days. And I kept thinking, like, man, I just love old Arkansas. Terrify me. To go to Arkansas is terrifying because of the Clinton. Are we allowed to call it? What do we call it? Dynasty instead of a mafia?
Are you? Yeah.
Because like the whole place is completely run by, I mean, it seems hyper corrupt in New English in a sense.
And isn't it also part of Ozarks too? The whole region is part of Ozark, isn't it?
Right. So you've also got the Appalachian Gaelic royal families. I mean, the control over Arkansas also going back to the Civil War, that they conquered this place and they've turned it into a stronghold. So these neo-Democrats and neo-conservatives. Right, like this is where where the flipping really occurs.
Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. There was that whole thing about that. It was apparently like, so JFK had gotten all these cigars before the embargo, and then like there's a strong argument that because the Oval Office cigar with Lewinsky, you know, if you've read the material, that was in all likelihood a JFK cigar from Cuba. And so it's like that's the thing, is like JFK, he had the Cuban embargo, but Bill Clinton, he had the Cuban embargo. So that was, you know, because normally you dip a cigar in like brandy or something and just to smoke it. It's like,
or Monica, dip it in Monica this time.
Yeah. Who's the guy who's almost definitely not actually the biological father of Chelsea Clinton for YouTube? You know what I'm talking about?
The guy with the lips McGee. What's his name? It looks like L. Ron. He's got those L. Ron Hubbard lips.
I know. It's like you could see, you know, he could definitely play the saxophone.
Yeah, dude.
Oh.
Right. What's his name again? I forget.
I love how she wears that like upside down cross for St. Peter. And it's just like, we're like, as though it's just preposterous that anyone would find that, you know, straight. Like if you're doing like, you know, publicity and all this stuff, and you're just wearing this upside down cross necklace. It's like, yeah, I realize the whole, is she Catholic? Does she claim to be Catholic?
Yeah, they do. I remember this freaked me out. So
she converted, didn't she? Because she married a.
She came to Santa Cruz, and without the parents being informed, she went to all of these elementary schools and read to them this book that she started writing, or put her name on. Start now, you can make a difference, or something like that. And I was just like, how terrifying would that be to like not know whether or not this lady came to your school? I mean, and wouldn't that be dangerous even outside of it? Just if someone decided they didn't like her and your kids are present when this happens, I would not want that to happen regardless. I would be kind of scared of some of the parents in Santa Cruz, right? I don't know.
Look at that smile, though. I mean, how could anybody have a problem with that? Look at her.
That's what I'm saying. Great. Webb Hubble is like clearly, I don't know. All right.
She's like, is your geometry even sacred, bro? That's totally her look.
The cocaine smuggling is interesting, but there are some other thoughts I had on the Ukraine connection there too, to China and Taiwan. China aims to launch nearly 13,000 satellites to suppress Elon Musk's Starlink, researchers say. So there's been talk that some of the satellites have been even captured or something, and then that's why they were shutting down. Do you guys think any of that's true? What do you guys are thinking about Elon?
You're like, you take down one of our balloons, we got your satellites.
You know?
Am I audible?
Yeah. What's up, Chris?
Yeah. Oh, that's fun. Sky trains. Starlink sky trains. Have you seen that?
Yeah. In Minnesota,
there you go.
See them pass by.
Yeah. So, like, there was no warning. People start seeing these. They're like, "What the hell?"
Right?
Yeah. I saw that at Burning Man. Didn't somebody do that across Burning Man, where they like had this giant thing that went across the entire playa that was just like these linked light things? I swear I have that memory. I do. That was a thing.
That's extreme Burning Man.
Well, after the China balloon fiasco, there are all these reports of falling debris, like these green, basically they say they're meteorites, but they're all green. So I just assume, because what Hawaii, they saw the Chinese lasers. Those yeah, so
the Chinese Matrix show.
I don't know what was going on, but I really think China is starting to shoot them down, because China does not want Starlink to be in orbit anymore, because basically Starlink has completely covered. There's a map. I show you guys the map. Okay, this is a live map of all the Starlink satellites covering the entire planet. Let me show you where it is.
More to come.
Right. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of these services. I mean, Russia's going to build one, and China might already have one, it sounds like. And it wouldn't be hard to retrofit other services, honestly, because you can piggyback. But that's what the balloons could have been useful for as well. The balloons might have been also just, super powerful systems that are closer to us and they're lighter. So it might be that we're not understanding what the word satellite actually means. They don't have to be these giant metal old satellites.
Andreas, look at the message I just sent it. This is supposed to be accurate, kind of like the data tracking. You just gotta scroll down and you'll see it. One more.
Oh wow! Dang, that's crazy.
So it says green is in operation, blue is rising, and red is descending. I think they're just trying to make sure they don't crash into each other, but I don't know how many has been launched so far. It's crazy. I mean, it has to be at least 300-400 of them already.
It's like ants devouring an eyeball.
So, I post a little silly link. I'd say that looks like the Vogons, in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. They really blow the planet up with these little bits.
Oh yeah, totally. I gotcha. Yeah.
We need to clear way for the galactic freeway.
Oh man. So what do you think is going on with like these systems then? If there's people blowing up balloons, but they're putting up more of these systems, and you just saw that picture. I mean, I could go back to it actually, but it's kind of crazy to think about how many satellites allegedly are just orbiting all the time. Or is that just we're not thinking about how small they are, and so this is really not that big of a deal? Or are we building a giant shell around the Earth? I mean, my God.
How do we get out of there? How do we get out of here? That's what I want to find out. These are all space junk, basically. I mean, how do you get the hell out of the planet?
I mean, we are looking at
the LA freeway.
To add insult to irony, but it's true. It's kind of strange that there's supposed to be so much space debris, and I think that as it accumulates, that'll be part of the story. You know, you can't get past the space debris. It'll be really hard.
Who was the astronaut that walked out of Gravity in the theater, like some big screening, and just like made a whole scene and was just like, "It's bullshit! It's all bullshit!" And he had this whole breakdown about it.
I don't know.
I forget who that was.
The problem is if I type astronaut breakdowns,
there's too many of them.
Oh yeah. No!
Wow.
David, I think you're talking about this one. No, there was one incident. I think they were launching some rocket or something like that, and then in the control room, everybody cheering, high-fiving, and this guy just stormed out with his suitcase.
That's another thing. Yeah, no. This is just a screening of Gravity where an astronaut was just like, famous astronaut said this is bullshit. I don't think it was Buzz or anything like that, but it was just whatever. It's just the point is that was I'm bringing it up because that was the premise of that film. Was kind of this space debris thing that happened where it's like one place got destroyed and it drifted to the next, and apparently, some astronauts don't like that idea. It's like it's just like, it's not even, I mean, I did the same guy walk out of Moonfall, it's like, dude, what did you think you were going to come see? That's
what I want to know. What do flat earthers think about satellites? What exactly, how do they explain that when they think satellite is BS too? I mean,
they're not above the atmosphere for them, I think is what they say, right?
I don't know how it floats. How does it stay above air?
Andreas, you're muted.
Sorry. Yeah, basically, that's exactly right, though. You just have balloons that are above the Earth in that system. So there's nothing necessarily outside of the atmosphere. They're just above in the stratosphere, and they circle around, right? Like clockwise and counterclockwise. Instead of this idea that they're going around the thing, they're just going around the clock. And sometimes they're wider or further apart.
How do they explain how it stays above the ionosphere or the stratosphere? I mean, what is it? It's not gravity, right? If they don't believe in gravity.
There's something called the stratospheric electromagnetic tether. So the idea is that at a certain level between the mesosphere and the stratosphere, about 30 miles, some 50 kilometers, just about, there begins to have some area into the 60-kilometer range where there's electromagnetism produced, and things just sort of stay up here. It's not really gravity. It's just sort of electromagnetic field creating ionic breeze on the item, which then keeps it from falling.
How high was that China balloon, or allegedly China balloon? How high was that? Was that past the stratopause? No.
It could have been. I don't know for sure. Let me find out. But you can get balloons up to, I think, 60,000 feet or whatever it is. So 90. I think they had balloons even higher. Altitude.
Well, look at it. U2 flying above. U2 can fly. Let's see
altitude. Does it say?
Okay, if it shows U2, let me see. U2 spy plane.
Oh, also the size of the balloon here for comparison to the
60,000 feet. It says U2 engine.
Yeah. So I don't know for sure why this isn't loading, but it's interesting. You can kind of see how much bigger how big the balloon is than I think people really thought. Also, there you go. So this is F-22. This is the Statue of Liberty, and then here's the balloon. Here's the size of the payload to the balloon. And this is the thing people forget, is attached to the balloon is the satellite, right? The payload is the satellite. And so this way it gets it up there and it does its job. It just stays there, right? So that's also a way that satellites are up there, is they're attached to balloons, and a lot of them are just on balloons. But
look at Statue of Liberty, 93 meters. Yeah. You gotta love that.
You can't help it.
Yeah.
But okay,
that
so
is the height of the Statue of Liberty. Huh? That's good to know. That's crazy because it's the law. I'm sorry. That's wow.
Well, it had to be.
What's at her feet?
Sorry,
what's that? What is at her feet?
Chains.
No, is that what it is?
Yeah, she's got chains on her feet. The original design had her holding the chains up in the air, I think with both hands, and then they didn't. They were like, "That's a little much. Let's tone it down a bit." So at her feet is actually broken chains. You can see them. That's why it's,
we don't need to beat him over the head with this, guys. We'll leave that for our ancestors.
Yeah, you got to get the right angle. If you type in chains with Liberty, you'll see it. But yeah, it's worth showing if you're gonna bother. Yeah,
she's the goddess of the underworld.
Yeah. That's a Pisces thing too, right? So we got Thelema and Pisces binding their freedom, right? Pisces is binding, in case you don't know, and it represents the feet, or the feet represent Pisces. However you want to see that. The feet are the part of the body that Pisces is applied to.
You know how they determine that is actually with the way that a fetus is situated inside of the womb is how they mapped out what signs relate to which parts of the body.
I was also going to, the next part I was going to say is that people kind of forget that the Statue of Liberty is basically pregnant. It's a little hard to tell, but if you look at it from this, well, if I type pregnant, of course, you're going to find pregnant versions of it.
Right.
And if you look at the base of, what do you call the 11-point star? That's her base, right?
Enneagram?
It's hendecagram.
Yes, the Enneagram is 11 or 9. What is it? But it's 11, but it's situated different. It's not a regular star. I'm sorry, excuse me.
And somebody mentioned in the chat saying it's a star for too, with that 11 points.
It was Peter Venkman who said she's naked under that toga or whatever, and she's French. That was Ghostbusters too. Before they have her walk or whatever.
If she's got chains, she must be Persephone.
I've definitely find it interesting that she's birthed, like that she's like kind of the Whore of Babylon figure that's birthing, right? The fact that she's pregnant and she's giving on the new world, she's giving birth to the new order, the new children, the next Rosicrucian line, whatever it is that they're connecting. And it's, bring us your poor, tired, huddled, tired masses, etc.
You heard the theory that it's Elvis Presley? Has a timeline problem with that, but they're very similar looking, her and Elvis Presley. I don't know if you've ever seen a side-by-side analysis of it, but it's pretty uncanny.
Well, that's only if you believe time is linear.
Right, exactly. And who believes that these days?
Right. Crayon.
Having trouble believing time is just that.
Exactly.
So, Andreas, you want to talk about this one? The Ford article. Oh, he dropped out.
He was like, nope.
Our host dropped out.
How is this even still going?
It's just like a headless chicken. It's running around in circles. Yeah, man. Oh, okay,
Well, we're going to try to talk about this. How about that? Ford wants to allow your car to lock you out and even drive itself to an impound lot or scrapyard if you miss your payments.
Yeah, I was. It syncs with my weekend because I was watching Repo Man all weekend.
Oh, yeah?
Out. Yeah, that movie is hilarious.
I've been thinking about Repo Man a lot recently. That's fine.
Me too, actually.
That movie is just so crazy. I mean, I've seen it so long ago. I never noticed all the details. But
hey, do you notice how everyone's into weirdness right now? Books in all the supermarkets about flying saucers, UFOs, how the Mayans invented television. No, I don't read them books. Well, you know.
And I totally forgot it in Repo Man. They actually talk about, John Wayne is gay.
John Wayne was a fag. The hell he was. He was too, you boys. I once installed two-way mirrors into his house in Brentwood, and he came to the door in a dress. That doesn't mean he was a homo, Miller. Lots of guys like to watch their friends fuck. I know I do. Yeah.
You got the whole monologue recorded or what in your brain.
I remember my high school freshman history teacher paid me $5 a DVD, and one of the first movies he wanted a copy of was Repo Man. And I got to see a lot of good movies that way because I hadn't seen Repo Man until I was 14, so that worked out quite well. But most of these scenes of the movie kind of tell you that society is falling apart because they're lazy and they're weak, and that's the natural order of thing. And you're just keeping people alive isn't helping at any point. At some point, you're supposed to let the system just destroy them. It seems very harsh and true.
And the lobotomies aren't really what people think. Like, it's actually kind of a good thing, for a lot of people.
Great. Another appointment to cancel.
Right.
But I mean, yeah, the Repo Man is also the idea that they could take your stuff, and that's his job. Is if you didn't pay for it, you didn't fulfill your end of the contract. And a lot of people usually would hate the Repo Man because they're upset that they didn't fulfill their end of the contract, but also
right. But he's just the messenger, right? I mean, he's a messenger on speed.
Yeah, he's a messenger of God. Yeah, exactly.
It's like, don't shoot the messenger. I'm taking your stuff. Yeah, but it's actually these people. I'm taking it for them.
Yeah, so I guess that means don't hate AI and robots for driving your car to the scrapyard.
So a lot of people are going to lose their job over this technology. All these Repo Men are going to be jobless. I feel sorry for them.
Are they going to be jobless? Or are they going to be jobless?
Yeah, I don't know.
I feel like why would it drive itself to the scrapyard too? That seems a little bit like a some very brave little toaster sort of suicide move.
I'd like to watch that movie, but also what happens to the person who won't get out of the car? I've lived in this car with my kitten for the last 3 years. Whatever.
You know what I noticed a lot on YouTube now? There's a whole bunch of like these van life videos now.
Yeah.
You just look at it, it's just like more of a at first it's a kind of novelty channels like, oh, okay, that's interesting, living in a van, like little young people, they're looking for cheaper rent.
Van life toilets, the scoop on the poop.
Yeah, I like it when they spend more money on their van life van than most people would on like an actual house.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
what I like is how they make it seem like, this is what you want, is you want to live in a circumstance where you got no address, so that when they take your vehicle and you end up in an impound lot, you can't get it back because you lost your cards, which were in the car, that you end up homeless, and now you're on the street and you've got no one to stop when they take you for the next ride. I think that's what they're trying to do, is they're trying to get people to celebrate nomadicism, because nomadicism was already defeated. They call it vagrancy, and they've completely destroyed that way of life for most people. It's illegal, by the way, to gather firewood if you're an indigenous mother.
You ever see like when they're moving houses, like, and it's just crazy, and they take up so much of the road, just to have a freaking house being moved on the back of a truck, like
yes,
that would be really outdoing these people, is just to live in one of those, like on the vehicle. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's just my house, whatever.
There's no foundation. It floats itself.
Someone's got a jet plane overhead.
Actually, is that true for all the Amish people? That all their houses none of them have foundation, like you can live.
Well, yeah, they're all pole barns. Pole barns seem to work all right. I think pole barns are highly underrated. you know, that's like the best way to live your life, probably.
You've probably been to Angel Camp, Andreas. You guys been any of you guys been to Angel Camp? So you know those buildings at Angel Camp, they're all built without any like metal. They're just like all like they are hinged together in such a way that this isn't it. This is near Angel Camp, but the buildings at where the Grateful Dead used to play actually is that it? I think one of those may have been it. Yeah, well, now we're gonna see stages, but no, there's a guy Avery who built the place. He actually hung himself from a tree on the land, but you know, he designed all these buildings. I don't know if we're seeing them here. It doesn't look like it. But yeah, maybe that one is there. I think okay. I'm sorry, but anyway, yeah, there's like it's just crazy that they built these structures without any nails. Also, Eddie, you sent me the thing on Giant Rock. We were said, is this the place you were talking about? Yeah, so that thing, I think the Integratron, which we've discussed on the show before, that was built in a similar way where there wasn't any nails or any screws or anything like that. It's very stable structure, you know. But it's all weight distribution, you know, the idea of like the keystone and the archway, you know.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull that one up. Let's see. Yeah, because it just popped up in the wait, where is it? Okay, Jax. Okay, here I'm gonna drop it in.
Vigil, where are you at? That's pretty rad. You're like in the middle of a city.
This is Tempe in Arizona, right next to Phoenix, the best city in the world. We've got this river that I'm sure they'll knock something off of this bridge soon, and our water will be ruined too. But for now, this is a beautiful place. I love Tempe. We have a little mountain behind that building there. You can't see it right now, but you probably saw it earlier. Yeah, it's beautiful here. Love it.
Hey, Vigil, are you doing like van life? Or is this your reality now?
No, former twice. I've lived in RVs though, not vans.
I lived in a Honda. Yes. Amazing. I remember making quinoa on the Palisades, and people come out of their big multi-million-dollar houses and be like, "Who's that kid in his sarong making quinoa?" I guess it'll improve the property values. I don't know. It's not bad, I guess. Wait,
I used to love that you could get a Greyhound ticket, and if you as long as you had your original ticket, you could stop anywhere you wanted for like I think it was like up to 2 weeks or something, and still continue on with your trip. So like that, if you travel with a tent, then you're good to go that way too. But I don't know if it's still true for.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, at some point, they'll probably destroy anybody who doesn't have rights to. If you have your own property, there's a lot of rights people don't realize they have because they've never really enforced them or claimed them. But if you have your own property, you have a lot of rights on your property. If you don't have property, then you have to fall into what communal ordinances and all this nonsense. And it gets pretty bad.
I know. I was reading Jack Kerouac growing up, and I got so excited to, you just go on the road. And it's like, dude, if you're going with a vehicle, a lot of places won't, you have to. What am I gonna have to pay? Goddamn $70 to park my car here for the night? Like, what the hell is going on?
Parking is a big problem.
But so King Charles similarly had to move back home to his mom's house recently. Poor guy. So we feel bad for him, but he's not really stoked on it apparently, but they decided he has to. Why do you think he has to?
Like a serious, like, is it gout or something in his hand? Like, what is his issue with his hands again? He's got these giant freaking
sausage fingers.
I thought he had titanium rods that were embedded by the Canadian government. Or that was Logan. Sorry, wrong movie.
It was adrenochrome.
It could be though. I wouldn't be surprised if he was the X-Men. If you ever read Origin, it could easily be about Charles. There's no reason it's not. But
so the Windsor Castle he's gonna move back to.
Yeah, so he's moving into Queen Elizabeth's former residence at Windsor Castle. So I just feel like it's the new Washington, D.C., or it's always been. Like, it's important, the House of Windsor. It's the family castle, Wilhelm, right? The German castle that they had from the beginning. So why does he have to go out? Why is his sovereignty? Does he have some sort of ambassadorial property rights?
Well, he
on his family property.
He kicked his brother out. He kicked his brother out of what's that castle that Prince Andrew lived in? Now the Prince Andrew's got to scram and find somewhere. And
are they preparing for a Versailles type situation or what?
I don't know, some kind of coup d'etat.
Do you think Andrew though probably has like a couple extra spare keys for like wherever Epstein's like various sort of hideouts were?
Probably. Yeah. They probably took over the
they were like besties, right? They were besties.
Little Andy, I'm sure he's got like a
bunch
St.
of James
he could be. Yeah, I'm sure he's got some islands of his own. Ooh, yeah, but The next article was not my king. Charles and Camilla both bombarded with booze and taunts. So yeah, there is a lot of people yelling. She's like, "Oh shoot!" So I don't know. It seems like that's the next thing is that there will be people that are upset, and it's at very least not a Versailles thing. I think it's more like a the replacement of he could be killed very quickly, or he could die very quickly and be replaced with his son.
Oh, I only meant in the protective sense, like when they were like, okay, we're gonna like barricade ourselves in here to the best of our ability because people are getting pissed. But I don't know, run away. But no,
in all
not
seriousness,
really. I was joking.
I feel like we could stir a very interesting sort of conflict with England again if we were to adopt Harry and Meghan as our actual sort of like stand-in monarchs, right? And we started like an actual rivalry between the family, between their two countries.
Dude, how freaking full Urkel would that be? That's so crazy. You know, because it's just like, oh, independence, and then we're like, actually, like because I think that that you're onto something, because I think that was really what freaked him out about Diana, is that she was so popular here. People loved her here. She'd come here and go to Tower Records and just buy a ton of CDs. Like it's just like the
Beanie Babies. Don't forget about the Diana Beanie Baby, man. That was like an entire sort of wave that people don't remember.
Right. Well, so is it okay? Excuse my ignorance. I'm not. Is it Harry who has that whole thing with the Air Force? Like, not Air Force, but he's a pilot. Is it him? Is he the one who's got all these
license?
He gets these. No, I thought planes. I thought he was like like they give him these kind of like trophy, like participation awards. Like he was like, you got like a special treatment around that. But isn't he a plane pilot, or is it just helicopters? Don't know what I'm talking about.
In the early World Wars too, that's what they usually used to send all of the ritzy like Yale Skull and Bone kids. They always went out into like Civil Air Patrol, and then they turned into pilots and kind of sky junkies. It's almost like the place that you send your rich kids so that they don't actually have to see combat.
Right.
Because because in Afghanistan, I thought he was so Prince Harry, he was running his helicopter. That was his job when he was doing Afghanistan duties. So, and that's why he claimed he killed 25 Talibans. He said that's why everybody's like, oh, he killed Muslims. So yeah, he allegedly killed 25.
I was laughing at something in the comments, and then I realized you're talking something I shouldn't be laughing at. But no, it's just somebody said no. Josh says no, we don't want either of them in relationship to America.
Anybody who's been following my synchronous, I've been saying these guys are trying to take over this country. We have to find out where Federal Reserve. Who is the collector behind Federal Reserve? Our biggest debtor. Whoever we owed money to is.
Well, I mean, are they lizard people, and maybe they think they can talk to space aliens, and so they think it doesn't really matter if their family likes them. Maybe they can coup and become popular with the underworld or something. That's what it seems like to me. Is then he can take over the corrupt IBM, Coca-Cola, Fanta systems when the world goes to war. Right, because there's going to have to be the other side of everything run by somebody.
Okay, well, if you look at Harry, his residence right now is near Calabasas, right? It's like near where all the Kardashians are, and just off the coast is the Alpha Malibu is a deep underwater. There is a hidden underground base over there.
Are we doing it? Are we going to Banksy? Are we? Because like telling you, dude, if Harry's Banksy, it's gonna flip the world. Have you heard this, Thomas?
No, I've never heard this before. I love it already.
Oh, my friend is correcting me. She says Princess Diana didn't come to us to shop at Tower. She shopped at the Kensington store right next door to her residence, which is still Tower, I guess. But yeah, no, I actually love that, because I hate it when I come off of a show and I realize I said something that wasn't entirely accurate, and then it's like it's like the problem with being published, is you can't change things. So anyway, yeah.
So there's a long-standing conspiracy, which I think I thought I came up with this, but I don't think I could be the only person who recognized it, is the thing. But I noticed it on my own, and then other people have been saying this. There's this, but some of the people who say this stuff, Prince William Banksy, is the Claire where is it? The Mary Claire, right? So Prince William went to the mother's party, the birthday of the the nursing home of the royal, like his grandmother, right? And at the grandmother's nursery, he says, a lot of people don't recognize that I'm an artist or that I'm into art. I'm actually an artist myself. I'm Banksy. And everyone laughs because ha 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 ha. But then he went to Oakland, and there's a whole bunch of stuff with exit through the gift shop. And the idea is a bigger thing than just the guy that we're told it is, but that the government of Britain are protecting both Harry and William, who have been producing art with Banksy or as Banksy somehow, that Banksy is somehow connected to their protection. And
I had a long talk with the owner of the official Banksy store in London, and he told me who Banksy is. So you can take that word or not, but basically I had a long conversation with this guy, and he said if you look at the official Banksy book, that it's the least conspicuous person to contribute, which I believe is photo arrangement. And he said that is in fact Banksy's name. So if you have that book in there somewhere, it has who arrange the photos, and supposedly that's
Banksy. Doubt that there's like a guy from Manchester who's like an artist who is a bit Stoke-on-Trent and works with them, but I don't think that necessarily means Banksy's one person. I think
that's where I'm sorry, I was about to qualify that. I should have qualified it first, but he's also saying so that's technically the guy who started the thing. That is the technically who is Banksy, but that there's lots of other artists that do very similar styles that are actually even that he knows that can it's like anonymous or something. It's like it became like a code name for something, but it really is this guy.
Why nobody thinks that it has anything to do with banksters? Banksy.
I think that Harry and William talking also so much. If you've seen some of the Banksy Princess Diana's art, like there's so much of the Banksy stuff. It's so about the money note and everything that and he's saying, okay, look, one of us will take over in the light and the other will take over in the shadows. One of us can be king,
right?
The other can be in charge of the underworld, the organization that keeps the world running.
You seen that stuff that they have in the territories of Israel and Palestine? That's like one of the places of greatest tension. There's a Banksy gallery space that's really incredible. That's just like art speaking to the conflict and stuff.
Interesting.
But have you seen that? Yeah, it's all you'll feel like there was like what reality.
He's done stuff in Chernobyl. It's like to be able to go to Chernobyl and Disneyland. Palestine reappears in Tel Aviv gallery.
Yeah, and if you see this place from the outside, you can see it's right at the wall, and it's just like there's a whole. It's just crazy that they chose this place to set up this gallery space. It's pretty cool.
Has the identity of Space Invader ever been found out too? He's like another sort of Banksy-esque kind of artist.
Yeah, I've seen his art. I don't know if he's been identified. Isn't he a Frenchman though? I don't know for sure.
Is this another
French? Yeah, French. He's a French street artist. I think he's from like Nantes. When I was living in West France, I think he came up. I think he might have been from Nantes. Is the story, but I don't know for sure.
Oh, I love the Kung Fu Master. I've never seen that one.
Yeah, this one's cool looking.
Kung Fu.
Right. I don't know for sure his name though. I think he's still anonymous, which is smart because they still want to destroy art from artists. Although he might be famous enough now. It's one of those things where they could decide, oh well, you did cause property damage.
Isn't Exit Through the Gift Shop like a total like mockumentary almost? Like it's that's not a real event, was it?
I thought it was. Is it not that guy?
Yeah,
I took it to be a parody almost, but
yeah,
I'm not really sure.
I thought that Mr. Brainwash Chiriguera was a real psychopath. I thought that really happened. And he
I think that he is, but I also think is okay. So, however that it says here.
Yeah, I could be. I was under the impression that
it's an elaborate prank. They speculate that it's an elaborate prank. The thing is that people on both sides will be so confident. They're like, "Oh no, this is what it was. This is how it happened." And then you're like, and then the other is like, "No way!" And now, so I don't know.
But even then, it could be an elaborate prank by Banksy. Then, like if he's associated.
It would be a prank about a prank. So it'd be like it's just meta prank. Which is so Banksy.
I really miss that. I really miss the old days when Shepard Fairey, Shepard Fairey will use his guerrilla tactics, the obey, the Andre the Giant obey. I mean, I feel like that's more legit of an art form than these guys. And these guys just like there's only a corporation backing these people.
Well, that's the other thing. So it's kind of the opposite in a weird way. So I mean, you've got the elite maybe backing Banksy and making it possible for him to go to Chernobyl or Palestine, but then Shepard Fairey, he's got the corporations and also the elite in a sense, but he's doing propaganda for politics, so he's actually getting paid directly as himself to make the status quo in the light Leninist propaganda poster, right? I mean, this is pretty similar to the Lenin poster in 1918.
Hey guys, hey, you know what, Andreas, I gotta go because I got this crazy job, guys.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay, I gotta log off. Okay, bye, guys.
Man.
I talk to you next time.
Later, Eddie.
He's actually working on something cool. I'm hoping that he can tell you guys a bit more about that. You'll definitely see it is what's going on with that.
And you were talking about artists that are kind of run by the elite, and just as a crazy sync before, when you were looking up pregnant Statue of Liberty, I don't know if you noticed, but one of the other statues was another pregnant woman, and that's by Damien Hirst. Damien Hirst is another huge name when it comes to the elite artwork. And what's really interesting about this particular, I can't remember the name of it, that one exactly that you're just looking at, yeah, they very rarely show the other side of it. So on this side, it's got the outer side of the body, but on the other side, it actually shows. Yeah, there you go. It's got the womb with the little like baby inside of it.
Whoa!
There's a womb.
This is the one. Yeah, that one right there. There's the other side.
Oh, I see. Oh, trippy.
Wow, that's amazing.
That is nuts, dude.
And this one's got a bit of a backstory too. And this is the guy that the Cell movie with the glass that slides down on the cow and it spreads the cow out. That's based on Damien Hirst's work.
Oh yeah, I remember. Okay, no, I'm familiar with this artist beyond that because he's done actual he's a painter too, right, or something.
He's a painter. He did this one. Whoa. He did a shark underwater.
I've seen that.
He also has a series called, I think it's called Dots, and one of the very first things that he sold. This is why he got on my radar a while ago. But one of the first major paintings that he sold was called adrenochrome, and he sold it to one of the Podesta brothers. This was in the late 1990s,
right
before anyone really knew what adrenochrome was.
Adrenochrome?
Yeah. You told us that, and he has the dot painting.
That's it. Yep, that's
right.
it. Oh, and this is just one of many, many paintings. He had one on like hundreds of different chemicals. And in fact, I want to say like 2 weeks ago, he started re-releasing these paintings as NFTs. And I tagged him and said, you can buy digital adrenochrome now. And he took I swear to God, his account was gone off Twitter like a few days after I had tagged that.
That's epic.
It's hilarious. Well, I mean, a lot of this art is speaking to life. And we've talked about Abramovich before. I mean, the art, do you think there's something about art that you think they're an artist? Is it legally freeing or is it philosophically freeing? I mean, George Bush, right?
George Bush has to clean himself in so much of his art, he has to make things right,
and this presents him as the right brain. Here's the right brain coming back out, and everyone loves the right brain. No one loves the war criminal left brain.
He did a bathroom series that was like just bathing and whatever. It's like, wasn't it him too, like him in the shower or something? What was the deal? I can't remember.
Him in a bathtub. Actually, I kind of want this painting, which is the messed up part, but someone even animated it. This is his painting. Hold on, there you go. I mean, it's early Bush work, And you saw the meme recently where like a bunch of millennials are like, "Whoa, I am no longer buying any more Bush paintings. I had no idea he was a war criminal before all this." Totally canceling him, as like the future. Alex, what's up, buddy?
Hey, how's it going? Can you hear me?
Yeah, let me jump to crypto kubrology. Is it right?
Hit it. Yeah, that's right.
Cryptology?
Cryptocubrology. Kubrology.
It's not letting me find it.
You got CRP, CRY. Crypto.
The tails.
There he is.
Move so fast. Okay, so guys, Alex from Cryptocubrology. We've been talking about so many things, including the French cocaine that washed up on shore, Banksy perhaps being connected to the royal family, Prince William and Harry, as well as King Charles and the future, perhaps, as Eddie had brought up an article at some point we didn't talk about yet, that says that the king's supposed to die soon, like within 3 years, and then be replaced with King, well, maybe both. There's King William, and then Harry is some sort of kingpin or something like that. Underworld.
Well, it might be like the anti-pope, right? You've got the pope and the anti-pope.
Right?
Yeah, the last pope. We're supposed to still be on the last pope.
The last pope was prophesied to be a Jesuit. Isn't that the idea?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I was listening actually, and I didn't have any thoughts about any of that, but I did have a thought about. David was saying you were talking about an astronaut, like the scene of an astronaut that was like.
Yeah, I'd heard something somewhere that there was an astronaut that made a scene in a screening of Gravity where he was just like, "This is bullshit." And
that was like what came to mind was the movie The Ninth Configuration, which is Blatty's sequel to The Exorcist, where is about an astronaut that like is out the launch pad and he has a breakdown. And he's like, "There's nothing up there. There's nothing up there." And they haul him off to the mental asylum, and the movie. Is
there a crucifix on the moon in that movie? Is that?
Yeah, he has like a vision of Christ crucified on the moon, and
wow.
So does the Ninth Configuration
movie suggestions? I swear to God.
What was that?
What? I'm sorry, I interrupted.
Oh, so this is the best place to get movie suggestions.
Oh,
yeah, I've never seen this one. So this is okay. Here's the frame of it.
It's like. Yeah, there it is. And it's got Stacy Keach in it. And it's sort of like a asylum, kind of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Who's crazy? Who's sane?
So Alice Bailey talks about 9. Why is the 9th configuration important?
Well, we were just discussing this, me and Alex. Alex is actually in the other room at my house. Just,
yeah.
Kind of funny. But the idea we're a little complex, and I'll try and brevity, but that there's 9 pathways to the upper worlds in the Kabbalistic tree, and there's 13 pathways to the lower worlds. So when you have the supernal triad above, there's these 9 pathways. So the 9th pathway is actually what connects Chesed and Gevurah, which is strength. So the idea is that everything kind of hinges upon this ninth point, and so there's
that's right on your Kundalini. Dang.
Right. Oh well, if they're representing it this way here, I mean, this is pretty accurate. This is good. Yeah. Okay. No, I didn't realize what I was looking at it first, because the way they situated the lines makes me not feel right because they're not correct. But the rest of it is okay. Just the 22 pathways arrangement is not my preference, but yeah. Actually, that's the thing, is that Malkut actually, I think it cuts off there, but Malkut actually relates to the feet, and there's a translation issue or whatever when they talk about in the Bible of somebody getting their feet washed, that they could just as easily be talking about that they were getting their genitals washed. Somebody washes their genitals, because I mean, you're on the desert, you're in a situation, it's like you gotta stay clean, it's like it's a big deal, so it's like, hey, she washed my my area, it's nice of her. But then the Vatican, they do it now where the Pope has a tradition where he's supposed to wash somebody's feet, but they used to, up until the current Pope, just like wash each other's feet or whatever, and then this Pope actually went and washed a poor person's feet, and they're like, oh my God. But the thing is, it's still a symbolic act. It's not necessarily solving world hunger or whatever, you know what I mean? It's like you live in a house that's basically a castle. Like, I don't know, I don't need that.
But you're saying in the past that they might not have just been washing feet; they might have been getting more intimate.
Yeah, they may have been washing each other's genitals, but at least that's just a language issue. Yeah, so like the idea, like I've discussed with Andreas in the past, is like taking Ninja Turtles and relating it to the Kabbalistic tree. Like there's a whole argument for the whole thing, because for one, it's like you have metal and wood, so Splinter and Shredder, and the way that Chokhmah and Bina have been related as like wisdom and understanding in the attributions of Aleister Crowley. Maybe it's the Golden Dawn as well, or just the OTO. I'm not sure, but they relate that it's like that Chokhmah is the metal and that Bina is the understanding. So you have Splinter and Shredder up top, and then you can take the colors of the Ninja Turtles bands and relate them to the pathways of the lower world somewhat, I guess. Yeah. So then the way they surround, but it's like Pizza would be at the center. The Foot Clan would be Malkuth then, which is what I was getting to. But yeah, so there's a whole Casey Jones and April O'Neil. April O'Neil as the messenger relating to, I think it's Netzach that's with Mercury, and so, or is that Hode? I'm sorry, I'm spacey right now.
Wait, slow it down. Yeah. Why is April O'Neil the messenger?
Because she's like delivering the news. Like she's like
true.
the news lady.
Yeah,
so it's like here.
Really.
Oh, careful.
God, the internet.
God, that's how they get you, man. It's like you get the whole video.
You can't type April O'Neil anymore. I feel bad.
Oh, that name has been reclaimed.
yeah, that's true.
That came up recently. A bunch of people were upset about April O'Neil because she was they're changing her ethnicity or something, but like wasn't she originally not even a redhead anyway? Like she was like Puerto Rican or something. I guess she's Irish because her name's O'Neil. But how O'Neil? You know what I mean? There's a lot of people named O'Neil. I've known some Jamaicans named O'Neil. Was that
April O'Neil?
Peter Tosh's name was Macintosh. I mean, let's be real. It happens, you know, like the accent itself even kind of works to that. Moving right along from that. Every time I'm sorry. It's okay. This is how you feel right after that with George Bush. Okay. There's a movie based on a book, How to Lose Friends and Alienate People, and it's a true story about a British intellectual who realizes that it's so much more fun to be in America in Hollywood than to deal with the British royals. The British royals even get sick of it and want to come to California where they're treated like Hollywood people. Hollywood people get treated better than the way the royals were being treated. So the royal court, even, you have a bunch of bastards who were never going to be treated very well because they're not at the top of the royal court. So them filling up, I mean, literal, you know, bastards. So they're filling up the royal court drama, the drama of the gossip of the court, which is what Hollywood's become. And so many people used to think, okay, look at this rich prince. I don't know. If I do that, it's just gonna be pictures of Prince, I hope. I don't know, like Rich Prince, 1600s.
Eric Prince.
We also had a lot of people that were in Europe that abandoned Europe because they wanted to avoid the draft, but also filing conscientious objectors. It wasn't always going through, so they would file it and they would come over to the States, and a lot of them found refuge immediately in Hollywood.
True.
Oh, right.
Of all the German families, seeing the Dutch nobility, that was a big thing. Families that after the Sophia Naturalization Act had been out of favor for a century, they came in the 19th century and got involved in theater. But just in general, these were people that like to wear bright colors, fancy clothes, feel better than other people. I mean, it's just an old idea to be famous, and famous for what? So, I mean, this is, I think, exactly why that tradition continues on and why Harry and Meghan are, still doing this, even though they might try to be kingpins or might be more serious than we realize.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, their future is, they got to wear shades, man.
Dude, I like also that these are like McDonald's colors. It's very.
Oh, I was thinking
they were April O'Neil's colors too.
Ooh,
the yellow jumpsuit and.
Rare black hole, 1 billion times the mass of the sun, could upend our understanding of galaxy formation. Probably not, but what do you think? Do you think any of this stuff is...
Joke's on them. I don't understand the galaxy formation, so there's no upending at risk.
That's my new line for that. Thank you, Tom.
I'm galactating.
Black holes, so.
I mean, does anyone want to try to do a hot take on this idea that they're constantly telling you that everything that you believed before wasn't true? So just stop believing it now, right? Why would you continue? At a certain point, just walk away.
Doesn't that speak to attention span and fight or flight, and the way that when people go into like why it is that like fear, their attention span shortens so that they can actually like negate everything that they once knew because they're just now with what is being presented. It's like kind of the wrong way to be in the now,
Yeah, that's what it feels like. It feels like everyone wants to rely on something though, and it just doesn't need to be relied on. At a certain point, you don't need to have a lie to explain the universe. That's not actually better than just saying you don't know.
You don't know. Yeah, that's the kind of atheists I like, is the ones that are like, I don't know, and I don't need to define what God is, for Christ's sake.
What about agnosticism? You can't know.
You can't know.
I like that
too. But that's the thing that can come. It's always that thing, man.
I like content.
Everybody's got a pill.
Get what you want. You know, that's what I'm all about. But
I remember that group.
Now I'm hearing the song. I can't not hear the song.
If you try sometimes. Mexico will find more than 100 children in an abandoned trailer. This is horrible. 343 migrants trapped in a big rig, 103 unaccompanied minors. So I don't know. This is just an InfoWars story, but this idea of human trafficking doesn't seem to be going away at all. And we found that this is becoming a worse problem in South America, that in Central and South America, particularly Central America, children are being trafficked all over the world, and particularly not into the United States anymore, but into places where they're more valuable and being sold.
To the United States as well, but yeah.
But also, yes, all the United States. But you can find that there's a lot of these kids are being sold to, Sweden or China or Japan, which is like pretty horrible as well. All over the world, people are being trafficked. I don't really have a jumping off point for this one. Do you guys have any questions? Any thoughts? Hot takes?
340 people, including 103.
I mean, I was just going to say it's probably a lot easier to fit kids in a truck than adults, right? There was like over 200 adults and only 100 kids.
Yeah, that's practical points.
Right, they're more compact at the younger age. It's true.
I think the fact that they've got different people, though, is interesting. That you've got the kids aren't with their parents, and these adults are different adults that don't know them. So they're just everyone's strung together without having any control over who they go with, which is the other thing. They're being shipped off without I mean, it's one thing when you've got a coyote who drops you off on the other side of the border or something like that, and that's horrible enough because you're in a trunk. This is worse because you don't know what sounds like exactly where you're going. And it sounds like there's money's being made other ways than by the person themselves trying to travel. So this is definitely indentured servitude or something.
Yeah, they use the children. I mean, that's a problem in various ways. But yeah, they'll really have them going out and making,
the adults too. Yeah, I mean,
civics of it. It's yeah.
You remember that little kid pointing to his pee-pee in Back to the Future at the very end?
Of course. And was that a little kid or was that an actual little person? I think that was a dwarf or a midget.
Homunculus?
No, he was a kid. I've looked into who he is now and what's going on. There's just rumors out there that he's basically just living off of blue-collar jobs, this one, that one. People keep seeing him here or there. Every once in a while, he
other stuff
that was me. No, well, I mean, he was early, I think, but nothing really that anybody would recognize. Well, you guys probably would, knowing you. Somebody knows. Yeah, but that's like
to his pee-pee?
No, yeah. He points to his yeah.
All right, so this is what's going on. It's the end of the film. Crow, come here, my dog. He wants to play. So it's the end of the film, and Doc just came back from the past in 1955 to meet up with Marty, who just arrived himself in 1985, right? And Doc's up there. He introduces his family with Vern and Jules, or Jules and Vern, as his sons. And it's Vern that points at his pee-pee, and he does it right when Doc is being asked a question by Marty's girlfriend. She says, I have this letter from the future and now it's blank. What does it mean? Or what, or does, I don't remember exactly what happened. She says, what does it mean? And right then the kid goes like this. He's got his hand down by his crotch. Sorry, he's got his hand down by his crotch. Can you see me? I'm in bad light. Here we go. He goes like this. Can you see that? There you go. He goes like this. Damn, I'm not good at this. There, he goes like this, and then he goes like this. And just as he does this the first time, the camera starts zooming in on them. Like, oh no, that was totally an accident. He just needed to go to the bathroom. Right.
No, he's not. He's putting his hand up, like he's going. So we got the GIF here, and he's doing this, right? Which is like kind of like, come over here a little bit, like come check out what I got.
Check it out.
Check out what I got, and I've got this world, and I think that's the thing. He's going to inherit the whole world.
It reminds me of the end of the movie The Last Jedi, where they show the little slave children in the fields or whatever, and then he kind of has his broom handle and he kind of lifts it up like it's a lightsaber, and he has the Force, but it really looks like he's getting an erection. It's this
Sure.
Oh, you got to go there. The way I liked it was it reminded me of Breakin' 2 Electric
Oh my God.
Because there's this scene where he picks up the broom and he dances in the night. Is there going to be this scene right here? Was that whole scene like this magic thing? I was always like, man, Last Jedi could have been so much better. They could have just cut straight to this scene.
Big dance number, like.
Oh, what a classic! That was those Israeli guys. We talked about them not long ago.
Best movie in the world.
Producers or whatever. Yeah.
Okay, so Maryland Democrats proposed bill preventing people under 25 from being charged with felony murder. What do you think about kids killing people? Kids with guns, kids without guns?
I feel like this now opens up an advantage because now you can just hire all under 25-year-old contract killers, and it's the same way that they use little kids as drug runners, right? Exactly. You get caught with like a bag of whatever, you get like some packs.
25 is about CIA retirement age, you know what I mean? You're like the early agent, so
right. It's like football or something, right? And they're like there's a limited run. Oh, I don't know actually.
I mean, you can keep the thing is being an agent's like the least fun thing and the short. It's like that's what you want to get past as quickly as possible. You know what I mean? Like an agent's not really working for. It's not like a contracted specialist. So, but yeah, for the first 7 years, this seems about reasonable. And then after that, also we could think about criminals in general, just people like on the internet who are willing to take the Bitcoin or whatever. I don't know. It seems dangerous. What do you think? What do we do? Can we stop it? Should we stop it? Should we say this is at the same time? A lot of kids don't know what they're doing. It should be case by case. This bill is just anybody ever can never be even considered for murder if they murder somebody.
And what would you say this was Maryland? Does this extend to DC proper?
That's a good question.
Ooh, good question.
Because if it does, now all of a sudden you've got a whole new sort of swarm of like child Manchurian candidates to be looking out
right for. Thank you, dude.
And honestly, this reminds me of the very first Old Man in the Mountain, the original of the Assassins, because he would exclusively basically drug and kidnap little kids that were about puberty age, definitely under 25, and train them to become killers, political killers.
Alex and I were just discussing that Darren Brown that takes the Sirhan conspiracy ideas and applied them, where he like took a large group of people, narrowed down who the person in the group was who was the most susceptible to hypnosis, and then used him to assassinate Stephen Fry, who was like in on it. Have you seen that?
Yes. Dude, I've watched every Darren Brown. I'm fascinated with him.
I saw him in London, dude. I can't even, dude. I just like that. And what I love about him is he often tells you how he does things, and that episode is an example of such, where it's like, this isn't Chris Angel. He's actually telling you how it's done,
The same thing. There was a show where he was with Simon Pegg, and he basically is asking him what he wants for his birthday present. And I watched that very first episode.
I want a leather jacket. No, I want a bike. What is it?
A bike. Yeah. And you know what? When he said that, I was like, I wanted a bike too. What happened to me? And it goes back through and it shows you all the NLP and then all the words he's using and all the symbols. Yeah, I'm convinced that Darren Brown is like an NLP master.
I remember how horrible that was, though. It never worked as a kid. They'd be like, and now if you guys call in Nickelodeon, you can win a pair of Skechers or Hush Puppies. And I was like, I can't. Can you please make them a shoe I like? And it didn't work. I don't know. And that sucks. It's like when you try to watch a 3D movie and you can't enjoy it. It was bad. What about Close Encounters of the Third Kind? I don't know. It's kind of a random jump off point.
I think this means something.
I mean, so the idea that there's a volcano basically, and there's a
Devil's Tower, by the way.
It's connected to a eruption, aliens. You got Xenu and Scientology, but back to Stephen King, and then the idea that what's his name, actual director of the movie, Lucas Spielberg, wanted to connect that these children are the ones that are communicating with this, and they have to trust in this tonality. There's this music that's like a hypnotone, and if you know the hypnotone, then it unlocks. Do you have any thoughts on Close Encounters? When were you when you first saw this movie? Or yeah, Thomas, you had your hand up.
Well, I was just gonna say that we don't want to skip over the fact that this also part of the premise was that they staged a bunch of train derailments as a way to distract people from the oncoming alien invasion.
Right, I forgot about that. Applicable, man.
That's the first.
Yeah,
when all that started going on, and there was like blue beam talk. The first thing I thought of was this movie because that's the plot of the movie.
Shit, you're
They were
totally
talking
right.
about
And
it
that it
for
was a whole
COVID in
chemical
general too,
event.
just with all the masks.
Yeah, and they said
wow.
exactly. They said there was a toxic chemical. Everyone get out of the area, and it was just a way to clear it out.
Right.
Yeah, you ain't said nothing yet. Hey,
Wow.
you wanna share that link?
Where's the link at?
The one I sent you for the
Private
blog
chat?
that
Oh,
I finally
okay.
got up in somewhat proper form.
Is it in on Messenger? Facebook?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
hold on. Okay, I will find it. Yeah, so actually Chris has got a thing he's been putting together that has to do with the train stuff.
So I watched a good portion of your guys' episode on that, and I'm not sure if I missed something, but did you guys show the DeLillo or whatever website, the DeLillo Society website with all the 9/11 stuff and like what his whole trip is about, like the decay or whatever with when it comes to art? Like, do you know what I'm talking about?
No, it's
So
interesting.
the Law of Ruins.
The Law of Ruins and Delilio's Twin Towers, and he talks about how society is falling apart. What is this article?
Yeah, this is a whole thing. So like this is the rabbit hole. So I thought you guys were going to jump into this, and I was like, and I had things I had going on, but I wanted to hear if you guys went here with it because what I saw of your talk was really great. You had extras from there's a CNN article on a synchronicity. Totally, where they're just like, isn't it weird that extras from this film, like while they were doing the movie, were like evacuating, like playing this evacuation for a train derailment, chemical toxic event, and then like that actually happened, like in the same town, like that they were like, it's just nuts.
And the guy who they interviewed on CNN was named Ben Ratner, and one of DeLillo's books is called Ratner's Star, which came out before White Noise.
Ratner's Star, follow the stars. Disney will tell you, follow the stars. So Disney has a runaway railroad ride, and it's basically like the Back to the Future train scene all over again. It all lines up. Look at that imagery right there. That's Back to the Future in East Palestine scene.
Back to the Future 3, let's be clear, but yeah.
Yes, Back to the Future 3. That's right. So there's all kinds of stuff going on. I want to say you pointed me to a very interesting side rabbit hole here. I looked up white noise on IMDb. Just type in white noise, do a search. This is crazy. You go down 9 steps. The 9th entry, when you search for white noise, there's a ton of white noise movies, ton of stuff, right? Yeah, click that extender. Now go 9 down, and it's something else. What is that? I just found this.
I think there was one. The sound.
No. Yeah, the sound. You counted wrong, or it comes up differently for you than it does for me. But it should be the 9th one down is the sound. And guess who's in the sound?
Yep. With Christopher Lloyd.
Christopher Lloyd. And guess where the sound is located? Most of this movie is at a train station. It's all about a haunted train station, and she's listening to white noise, trying to prove that there aren't any ghosts. Actually, she's a skeptic. But then, this is wild, man. And then if you search for the sound in IMDb, it shows up again as number 9, but it's the only one with that title.
Oh.
Wait, what?
Right. Oh, interesting. You know, Christopher Lloyd and that woman that is in Back to the Future 3 with him, that they get together or whatever, they're both in a Going South with Jack Nicholson from way back when. That has some symbolic significance with the whole hangman thing. There's like, yeah, I have a crazy like tarot thread with Jack Nicholson related, and what's his name? Not Christian Bale. The played the Joker. I can't think right now. I'm sorry. Played the Joker that died.
Heath Ledger.
Heath Ledger. Jesus Christ. Yeah. So it's like Heath Ledger has a theme of like the Hanged Man throughout his career, along with Christian Bale and then Jack Nicholson. Like this is a whole repeated thing, and like Going South ended up being like kind of a part of that in a weird way. But yeah.
Dude, when I lived in Connecticut, I lived at the theater that Houdini played his last show before he went to Canada. Got like killed or something like that. You know, he got punched in the stomach. So it's like this weird haunted theater. But they had shot this movie, Dorothy and the Witches of Oz, which bankrupted them at Palace Theater and destroyed their company. And it's so close to a good movie. There's a couple problems with it because, like, you know, special effects, but it's got like real people. It has Christopher Lloyd, Billy Boyd from Lord of the Rings. Like, all these people are in this movie, and they shot it in New York and Connecticut. It's pretty decent. Up until the parts where it's just not perfectly cut, right? But I was at the theater, so I have a bunch of the stuff from Christopher Lloyd's Wizard of Oz outfit, including his weird Borg helmet that he wore in this movie. I like to wear it sometimes. That's all I got to say about Christopher Lloyd.
Hey, what was there was Emerald City with Nicole Kidman. That's a movie that's probably awful, but I wanted to watch it for sync reasons, you know?
Emerald City.
That's almost every movie I watch these days.
Oh yeah. I actually have seen this movie. I forgot about that.
Is it worth it? What's the deal, Andreas?
It's years ago I saw it, but it's more of a, like, you know, she moved to the big city and she's trying to become like cool and she's dating a guy. One of those, you know.
But it's a Wizard of Oz take, right? No?
Is it? I don't think so. Colin, a principal screenwriter of some success, and Kate, editor, relocate to the ruthless Sydney, which is the Emerald City, and become lured by the bright lights of the city.
But she reads Wizard of Oz in Dogville, which is super Zohar movie.
I'm gonna rewatch this movie because the thing is, Australians surreptitiously hide the best British propaganda. So there's something about the movie.
You're gonna maybe want to watch BMX Bandits again now, seeing the old school.
I love that
Nicole
movie.
Kidman.
And Rad, just randomly because you said that.
Oh yeah, Rad with a talking skateboard.
Have you seen The Castle?
Yes, I have.
This movie is so key. It's about an Australian man who lives in this crappy neighborhood that he's basically built his own house, and then they say they're going to build a runway through it because it's not worth that much. They want to appraise his house. And how do you appraise a home, not a house, right? Because he's got all the love he's put into it. And it's the whole structure of trying to fight off the government from taking your land, right? But all through like this average Joe kind of guy.
And that's what they're doing right now. By spreading around all the toxic waste, they're going to take over the land that the toxic waste is on. And they did this, they moved all this dirt around the country, mostly the Midwest, right? Just before flood season. This is brilliant. It's brilliant. Look out.
Well, it's adjacent to DeLillo is David Foster Wallace, who was a huge DeLillo fan. And in his first novel, The Broom of the System, he has the Great Ohio Desert basically has been created by the government as a kind of philosophical exercise. And so there's just basically a big part of East Ohio that's like a fucking black granite, like bombed out desert. And so I don't know if that's where we're headed, but
I mean, that is also, so I recently rewatched 11/22, was it 11/23/62, the Stephen
2263, with the Stephen King, and that brings me into something I was going to bring up too. So, but go ahead.
Well, I set up for my dad to watch, and it was interesting because the basic premise of the show is, basically somebody had to kill JFK, or else we would have ended up in the nuclear fallout of the World War III that Orwell or H.G. Wells had predicted as World War III in The Time Machine, right?
That's so Stephen King. That's like,
it's so Stephen King, but it's also so CIA.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
Roger Stone or anybody else.
Same thing.
Yeah, it's like, it was all an inevitability, and that's just like the attitude that
they're not saying it's inevitability. They're saying that the atomic explosions or something, the Cold War, people on amphetamines and submarines, that was an inevitability. So the CIA, George Bush had to step in.
Right. Yeah, I guess I mean, like, it was inevitable. Like his death was an archetypal death, like that is propping up the history that exists, not because we didn't drop the bomb or whatever. That seems to be the attitude taken, and that's like
there's that whole thing with him in Camelot, and then with Jackie, that she was all about the Egyptian mysticism Osiris story, and she moved across the street from that museum that housed the ISIS-related artifacts or whatever, because she's just like obsessed with it, or maybe she had it built. I forget. I think we've talked about that here.
Dude, we can go so deep on so many fringe JFK theories here. So I've got my top three. My top one is that Papa Doc, who ran Haiti at the time, took credit for killing JFK through voodoo because JFK took away U.S. funding. That's a big one.
Peter Levenda talk about that in Sinister Forces? Is that what you're getting at?
Well, no, he said it himself. Papa Doc said it himself in a few different interviews. So it didn't just come directly from Levenda.
Matter of fact about it, and it's well recorded, huh?
The other one is that JFK had was basically a zombie. The syphilis had infested his brain to such a point that he became a very easy pawn for anyone to just kind of control him. They kept him on drugs, and they had all sorts of special cars and glasses and things made to just prevent people from realizing his syphilitic brain had turned him into just
like any royal
puppet.
Right.
And
he was on ketamine and amphetamines and on every possible drug that they could. Everything that was on Hitler was on. He was on as well.
So everyone talks like, oh, he was going to scatter the CIA, to 1,000 shards and scatter them to the winds or whatever it is. I mean, sure, if he didn't have the, syphilitic brain syndrome going on. And then the last one, and this is the biggest rabbit hole that would take, a lifetime to research, but there's a guy named George de Mohrenschildt, and he's the one that basically greeted Oswald and Marina when they moved back to the States, when they moved to Dallas, I believe.
That's what 11/22/63 is all about.
That's the guy at the end. Well, this guy, they didn't get into any of this, which I found was fascinating. In real life, he said that he knew Jackie Onassis when she was just a girl. He said something, quote, like, I used to bounce her on my knee. So he had connections to the Onassis family far before Oswald was even on the scene. You know what I mean?
Wait a minute, but she wasn't named Onassis until she remarried after JFK. But you're saying Jackie?
Yeah.
Sorry, Jack. But he knew
sorry,
Jackie.
I was like tripping out for a second. I was like I was visualizing her husband with her bouncing on his knee. It just got really weird for a second.
And this George de Mohrenschildt, he happened to be in Haiti at the time that the JFK assassination went down, and in his private memoirs, he tried publishing a book that was like his memoirs, but he said that as soon as he heard alerts that something had happened in the States, he already knew that it was Oswald that had killed JFK, which is insane that this guy in Haiti, that was in Port-au-Prince, which is the same area that Papa Doc was in. So there feels like there's all sorts of threads that you can pull at with this.
My favorite theory is that came from Mark Leclerc, and it's that he had like a moment of absolute clarity, and in the revelation of it, his head just exploded.
Just
if you look really closely at him right before the shot comes, you can see
back into the left.
He's having
I also think about his sister Rosemary, right, who had seizures, mood swings, and was prefrontal lobotomized. When you bring up lobotomies earlier, I was like, oh, well, didn't work out super great for Rosemary, who spent the rest of her life unintelligibly staring out a window in the St. Coletta Institution in Wisconsin.
It runs in the family.
Yeah.
Didn't Rosemary's Baby start like the opening shot, or one of the opening shots is the Kennedy Bridge, which was renamed later or something? What was the deal? Do you know that, Alex? Alan Green's talked about that at different points, but yeah, there's a whole Kennedy connections in Rosemary's Baby is really something. So to see Rosemary Kennedy, I don't know enough about that. I forgot about that, and I came across it at some point and was like, oh, I want to look more into this. But so do you know more about Rosemary Kennedy?
Yeah, just a bit. So, I mean, there's connections between the Ventura Camarillo Mental Institution and my family and the Kennedys, right? Because I'm Fitzgerald, and so related to the Kennedys. And so Jacqueline and my grandmother went to school with Jackie and was in periphery to JFK. But I think he was a bit younger. I'm not sure. But she knew also several of, I think she was maybe a roommate to Rosemary, and Rosemary borrowed some money from my grandmother, and it took like a semester to get the money back. And it was a large amount of money in like the 40s or something like that, at Stanford. So But then Rosemary was, given electroshock and lithium. My grandmother was also given lithium and electroshock, but was not prefrontally lobotomized. So the question has to remain: what happened in Wisconsin with prefrontal lobotomy, and was it just because they were trying to keep her quiet because it was so embarrassing to the family as JFK was getting into politics earlier on?
Why Wisconsin? Do you have any idea?
The thing that I think of when I think of Wisconsin is the monkey experiment, right? Monkey mother wire, you know what I'm talking about?
Vaguely. Well, I think
Harry Harlow used to take monkeys and he used to separate them from their mother. And he used to say, hey, you want to get milk out of this metal wire, or do you want to go touch this fuzzy dead thing? And the monkey would get milk and then it would go touch the fuzzy dead thing. And he would torture monkeys and chimps.
Well, I think of Wisconsin. I think of MK Ultra because of
that's what I meant.
Connections of Sidney Gottlieb, and the University of Wisconsin is where all that
Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah, Jeffrey Dahmer's another. I have this whole trip with Wisconsin that I haven't published anywhere.
Not just because I've been in Minnesota and they've got a thing. Trust me, it's not just that.
There's something weird about that state, and like if you see Making a Murderer, like that whole documentary, which is about a very sketchy police framing kind of thing, it's all in Wisconsin. And then the other thing is that The Wizard of Oz premiered in Wisconsin, like world premiere before its big theatrical debuts. It debuted in a few cities in Wisconsin in 1939. So Sidney Gottlieb and Frank Olson, all those people were from Wisconsin, and then
Madison, Wisconsin was declared by Playboy magazine to be the number one party school in America.
And that's the other thing. We were just watching The Straight Story yesterday or the day before with David Lynch's Straight Story, and the whole thing is the old guy's trying to get to Wisconsin on his tractor to see his brother, and twice he talks to somebody and they say, "Oh, I hear Wisconsin's a great party state, or it's a big party state." That's like the gag. It's like, oh, it's a party state. But then I'm thinking of the party, great party.
Oh, right.
And so,
shit. So you're tying to Twister with that? Is there something to that? So
Dorothy and all that, but not
right. But the Shining and Twister. You should tell the audience the weird stuff about Twister and the Kubrick thing because it's pretty nuts.
Oh, Twister. Okay, well,
I was actually thinking about Twister recently for a whole bunch of reasons as well. So go into that.
They're gonna make a sequel too. So
what? Really?
Oh, well, Twister. It's like a big
hot dogs.
When I was a kid, I was about, I don't know when this movie came out, so I must have been 9 years old, and the junior lifeguards in Capitola took us one day to go see Twister. It was the only time in junior lifeguards we ever went and saw a movie instead of at the beach.
This is the first time I ever smoked pot was to go see Twister.
Really?
Yeah, with my brother.
Holy
and
shit,
we walked to the theater
hilarious.
and it was like a psychedelic experience, It's like
That's amazing.
Mine was Alien vs. Predator, but it's similar.
It was like such a huge deal, and it was a big movie I watched with my mom, and my mom would it's always on TV every day almost. It's on TV, like the basic channel.
But Alex, tell us about the high weirdness surrounding Twister, because some of this is really
but it's just a big Kubrick mindfuck. The climax is the scene where The Shining is playing at a drive-in movie theater, and the tornado comes and pulls it all away. But then, so the whole plot is about the good versus bad storm chasers. There's the plucky underdogs led by Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt, and then there's the rich guys with their SUVs, and they're the bad guys. And so if you get into the credits at the end, you'll see that the bad guys are listed, and their names there's like Stanley, Kubrick, the Communicator, Tony, some other stuff like that. So there's this, they never get named like that in the movie, but they are listed that way in the credits. So then the other kind of thing about it that is kind of esoteric, but they have these two tornado measuring devices they call Dorothy, or they've come up with it, the good guys have, and then the bad guys have stolen their idea and recreated it. And the good guys, their little sensors that are going to fly up into the Twister are spherical things. But then you go to the other one, the other team, who is Kubrick and the Communicator and Tony, and their sensors are cubes. They're little cubic centimeters. So it's goes back to what our friend Mark Leclerc used to write about, this sort of sphere versus cubical geometry, and that's hard to explain. But and then there's other stuff like at one point, the second tornado they see, it splits into two, and it's like, and he goes, "Oh, we got sisters," so it's like twin sisters, and there's lots of stuff like that. More to go into, like with the timings of all of it. And then the other thing is Todd Field is in it, and Todd Field, who's now he's going to win the Oscar next weekend. What's that?
The whole movie. So I've seen it like twice, and the thing that I remember from watching it the second time and the first time, like as a child, and then again probably like 16, is A, The Shining, and B, that the way that they survive is the Jewish mitzvah ritual where they strap the leather strap around his arm. As they go here, they get down on their knees.
You're right. I totally noticed. Totally, he's doing tefillin, symbolically doing tefillin with their cube thing, tying it back. Yeah, no.
There you go. I was waiting for that's wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. Todd Field's in it, and so like the first time you see Todd Field, he's got his hands on a keyboard and he's standing next to Bill Harding, and then Todd Field later on is cast in Eyes Wide Shut, where he is standing at a piano next to Bill Harford, and
right.
So
I think he might
I think
be
it's
named...
like 2 weeks, 3 months, 7 days between the two, something like that.
I think the Harford thing might be, so like there's Harford and there's Hartford. One is a street that runs parallel with the Castro. So it's like maybe the second gayest street in San Francisco, maybe even the first, all things considered, because they'll go from the Castro to Hartford. So when they're like, you call them names on the street and they're like, go back to San Francisco. It's kind of funny because his name is like, that's the parallel street.
And that's the other issue with Todd Field is that earlier, before Twister, there's a scene in a movie called Sleeping with I don't know. He's talking to Quentin Tarantino. It's kind of a famous little bit where Tarantino's doing his whole Top Gun is gay propaganda or something like story.
It's subversion on a mass scale. It's that he explains that the entire subtext of Top Gun is steeped with that, and I absolutely believe it. And I think it's probably why Lady Gaga wanted to do the soundtrack for the new one. It's just like
that's where Iceman is like, come with my way, the gay way, right?
Yeah,
exactly. So Tarantino's telling that story to Todd Field, who then becomes the kind of doppelganger of Tom Cruise in Eyes Wide Shut, and actually real life friends with Tom Cruise. So
right, and then went on to do Tar, which is just another fully loaded symbolism thing, which actually feels almost like it's shot similarly to Eyes Wide Shut in certain respects.
There might be a Vanilla Sky thread in here too. We're talking about Tom Cruise doppelgangers.
Yeah, so the movie Vanilla Sky was based on a movie called Open Your Eyes, which also had Penelope Cruz. So they got together after this movie, after he was with Nicole Kidman, who was actually with Eyes Wide Shut. So he went from one movie with who he was connected with through Scientology, just like who was his original Mimi Rogers. So Mimi Rogers he was hooked up with through Scientology. Like that was basically, they played matchmaker, and then her father became like defective or whatever, they rejected him, and so he was forced to break up with Mimi Rogers by Scientology, and then Scientology set him up with Nicole Kidman because he had this, like, I don't know, he had seen her in something, they never met in person, so
I
they
want
arranged
that.
Yeah, but like,
it's the same way.
The most important thing is that the Jesuit-backed Spanish movie was better and way deeper. So Jesuit staging still beats Scientology. It's like paper and rock. I don't know.
Right. So
what does that say about whatever weird Spanish cult Penelope Cruz is in? Because I want to.
Vanilla Sky was the first movie to actually film at the Dakota like that since Rosemary's Baby. Like, yeah, it showed up in backgrounds of things like Ghostbusters or whatever, but there hadn't been a movie that was like, somebody lives at the Dakota. And so that's interesting. There's a bunch of weird. So they had somebody wearing a White Album shirt in front of the Dakota in that first scene of one of the first scenes of Vanilla Sky to connect the Beatles with the Dakota, whatever. But it's like there's hidden stuff throughout the whole movie. But I find it really interesting that his next movie after Eyes Wide Shut, if I'm not mistaken, was Vanilla Sky. And there was a controversy around, or whatever, a personal controversy for the director to decide if he wanted to leave the two towers in the movie, because while they were filming it, 9/11 happened. So in that final scene in the movie, you can see the two towers in the background. What's kind of weird though is if you watch Open Your Eyes, that it's based off of, they're in Spain or something, they're in another country, and you can see what looks like kind of twin buildings in the equivalent scene. And so yeah, there's a lot of high weirdness between those movies. I mean, thing to remember, Rosemary's Baby, same year as 2001: A Space Odyssey, 1968, which is also the year that construction first started for the first tower of the two towers, which is also the same year that 911 became the number that you dial for an emergency in the United States. Before 1968, you would dial 0 and ask for,
The thing about Vanilla Sky that I have in my head is that Donald Trump was exactly 666 months old the day it came out. Which, is just another one of these things. I don't know what it means, but it's amazing. Opened ideas, but yeah.
What do you guys make of fording the river? What does that mean?
What
Any ideas? I keep coming across fording the river, and you mentioned it a little bit ago. I've been waiting forever to throw that in there. What does that mean to you guys? Fording the river. Where do you get any connections? Anything? Because it's baffling me.
Floating.
It's in many places.
Floating,
right?
Floating the river, you said? Fording the river.
Oh,
so,
like Oregon Trail style.
Yeah.
I thought you said Fjord.
Everybody said Oregon Trail. I guess that's a hit.
My first thought is kind of Paraguay. So I remember back in the day, I used to sit and watch as people would smuggle Mercedes and Rolls Royces and Ferraris sometimes and Lamborghinis through the river. And so they'd get them on these floats. And there's a point where Argentina, Brazil, and Paraguay all connect. And they would get them from Paraguay and they'd float them into Brazil or Argentina to avoid the tariffs. So I remember that. That was my first thought. Ciudad del Este.
Yeah, so in white noise, for context, just a little bit, they're like in the river with their station wagon, and it's like it's not taking on water at all. Miracle of miracles. And his wife says, Baba says, your dad wants credit for fording the river, and they're still in the middle of it, floating. So I'm not sure exactly what they're trying to say. But yeah, ford means a place where you cross the river, like a shallow area in the river.
Trying to get a 42 out of it, like 4-2 somewhere. The river. I mean, you kind of split the.
Yeah.
Was that a pun too? Was it like a ford?
That's what I was thinking. So the Mandela effect with Fjord, right? Because you said Fjord earlier, and Robert Anton Wilson's Fjord, it has to do with the idea of fjord, right? That the word was originally fjord, and some people remember Ford actually being spelled fjord, and that it was changed sometime around the time the Etzel came out in the atomic 60s. And some people swear that was their first time jump or time space jump, the fjords.
Interesting. I like it.
I like that somebody says here, interesting sync back to square one of what we started with, Penelope Cruz in Blow, laughing out loud.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That's a good point.
I did love that movie. That's a good movie.
And now we're talking about Raw, Raw Uncut.
There was something also. What was it? Oh, yeah. I don't know if you guys care. I mean, I know, Thomas, you care a little bit about Disney and what happens to her. What about Adam Silver reportedly on Disney short-lived?
Little burn.
I'm sorry. I tried to keep a straight face. I did. Come on. I got halfway through it. What do you think? Adam Silver. Yeah.
Also known as Voldemort.
What is this? Is this real? What's going to happen? This is like how the Vatican fell apart so quickly.
This is when you're supposed to set your stable diffusion steps up to like 50. Like someone left it at like 15 or 20 for this one.
I'm trying to understand, like, how can they do aliens? Like, there's a new Disney aliens thing coming out, and I don't know. I guess I'll find out when they do it. But
Disney do aliens?
Well, that's the thing. It's just. I mean, I guess they had Touchstone and Miramax, so technically, the movie Kids was a kids movie.
What was the
Pretty Woman
thing?
Well, also, the Great Malenko is technically a Disney property as well. The ICP album.
There you go. Yeah, see that kind of thing. So, but they didn't release these movies as Disney, to like come out with a movie and attach their name to it and have it be alien. I'm like, what are they going to do with that? What are we?
I think
don't
that
know.
the point is that things have shifted a lot in the world. So like Bob Eisner, right? He'd said that, Michael Eisner, not Iger. Michael Eisner had originally wanted to change when he took over Disney. His plan after the helicopter accidents and everything was to change the name of Disney to West Coast Productions. Because he thought, what was the point of keeping the Disney name? And he thought, okay, well, we'll keep the Disney name because we can keep making some kids content. And it turned out it was very useful to have a front, because you walk right through the front to get to the back. And then you've got Touchstone, and there's a lot of porno that Eisner's produced. It sounds like crazier things than that, perhaps, under different names than Disney. But Disney as a name, I mean, at this point, it's become already so overused. You can't just use it for Mickey Mouse anymore. And at the end of the day, Pirates of the Caribbean, that was really the end of Disney's original understanding. They said, okay, well, is it a ride? Yes. So we can do it. And so PG-13 Pirates of the Caribbean happened.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
You started this on Alien Encounters too. And Alien Encounters was one of the more controversial Disney rides. I think it was only in Orlando. And it was actually deemed too scary for people, so they had to take it out.
Well, do you remember like how they introduced it on the Disney Channel? So they created this thing that was produced kind of like a real. It just felt like it was a real. Let's get to it. Look at this. This is Eisner right now, standing here with guards.
Tonight's special. I'm going to walk over and see if I can sneak a peek. Maybe not.
You see that? I mean, so the whole idea is, and this is where it goes from there.
World figures who have gone public with their own extraterrestrial experiences. The shocking history of government misinformation programs designed to prevent widespread panic.
Sound like Disney to you? So this is
produced by Disney.
So yeah, this is kind of the way that people got used to the idea that there was going to be a ride about alien encounters, right? And so that also Alien Encounters to Close Encounters. Come on the cachet right there.
Wow.
But look at this guy.
Is that Carl Sagan? No.
Looks like Michael Aquino.
I mean, come on with the red and everything, and like declassified alien documents. Like this is Disney. This is what Disney's always done. Disney owns CNN, right? Isn't that how it works?
CNN is owned by AT&T, who also owns what's that other whatever the other
Turner owns CNN, but I thought that Disney has like major stakes in it, as far as I recall. But I don't know how it works.
Probably. Sounds true.
I don't know. Oh, to 10.
Well, you were talking about circles and squares earlier, right? So these gates, like I can't stop seeing it. There's this thing called Zulon. The cross in the Bible was turned into lithographs. It's just like a symbol with a couple of letters. So like a Chi-Rho, right? There's one they didn't do. They used lots of words that were sacred to Jesus. And there's one they should have done they didn't do, and that's the word Zulon. And if you play with the symbols, the first, the middle, and the last, they're all an up V, a down V, and an X. And you just get that. You just get these gates. You get these, and it's all over Back to the Future. And it's really hard not to have that symbol in a movie, though. Think about it. So that one drives me nuts because it's everywhere. And it's actually the most important place I found it is in Vitruvian Man. So that's how that comes back. Vitruvian Man is where we get the squaring in the circle. And it's actually the less popular picture of the Vitruvian Man has that across it like a graph. So I always, like, there's a lot to think about there. It's really interesting, deep stuff. Just thought I'd throw that in there. It came to mind earlier, and you guys move fast.
Well, I mean, all of it though, it seems like
doesn't. Well, I just want the most interesting things are the things that are everywhere. Like that you can't, like you said, you can't avoid including because like Sean and I have all these trope things. Like we have what we call the shoulder trope, which is kind of hard to explain, but it involves like cinematic deployments of the shoulder as a thing. But it's like humans have shoulders, so there's always going to be shoulder action, but it's a lot of times like coded deeply. So yeah, I hear what you're saying. Obvious things that are like hold a lot of occult significance.
That's almost like the classic Jake Coates definition of synchromysticism as profundity in the mundane, basically. That it's like, where you'd least expect to see something profound, finding it there.
Hey, scroll down on my page there and find the one about In the Line of Fire. There. That one, In the Line of Fire and Codes 9/11. If you can open up the pictures. Yeah, so this movie, so he walks into his apartment, and you could see here on the left, I mean, you can't see much, but it looks like 9/11 to me on the left.
Oh, I see it. Yeah.
9 in the door, and then kind of 2 lit lines. But then the other thing lit in the thing is the calendar on the fridge, kind of suggesting a date. And then if you go to the next picture over, he turns on his light and he lights 3 lamps, which are 3 buildings lit, torched, or whatever. And then this movie, I found this all because a couple weeks ago was 711 months, which is 237 times 3 months since JFK was assassinated. That was like 222. So this movie came out on the midpoint of that configuration. So
the
that's
exact midpoint between the two events.
Midpoint. Yeah, it was a release date, which I didn't know. Like, I was looking at Kennedy resonating things, and then what I didn't realize is this movie is literally about the Kennedy assassination. So it's about one of the Secret Service agents who was on the detail, but like let Kennedy die or whatever, and feels bad about it. So that came out on the midpoint between the Kennedy assassination and then 237 times 3 months after the Kennedy assassination, which I was just looking at, which is just totally fucking insane to me. Yeah.
He been the guy
that freaking out.
He's the one that whispered like the infinite truth to Kennedy that made his head explode.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, he might have been there. Just
there you go.
He was like 42.
Yeah, and then I got there, like, this is something I've always loved, which is that John Connolly, who was in the front seat of the car, Kubrick he died when Kubrick was 23,700 days old exactly.
He got shot in the shoulder.
Did he? Maybe. Well, he got in his wrist, right? But
one of the guys got shot in the front seat. I think on the passenger side got shot in the shoulder. Or was it the driver? I forget.
No, that's Connolly you're talking about. Yeah, I think he had multiple wounds, but it embedded in his wrist.
Oh, okay.
I think.
Yeah.
Like which is like the same thing in Deadwood, actually, when the Wild Bill is shot.
Who got shot in the wrist?
John Connolly, the guy who was the governor of Texas, who was sitting in the front seat of the Cadillac, the Lincoln Cadillac.
I mean, how do the magic bullets, right?
No, but like clearly, someone shoots you in the wrist and some in the head. It's like he's so Sicilian sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, this guy. That's the thing. This guy shared the magic bullet basically with Kennedy, and then he dies 23,700 days after Kubrick.
Where do all you guys stand on King Kill 33?
It's an important work, but that guy, a lot of his views, I think he's kind of a bigot, straight up, like, and I reserve that term, but I think he's like absolutely brilliant and worth looking at. I don't like
it's on James Shelby Downard.
Yeah. But like the concept and what he's pitching, I think that there's a lot of truth to it, and I also think that line between, like, whatever you want to call it, this collective subconscious or unconscious, or the just like that like art imitating life imitating art, like we can't, sometimes it's like a line in the sand. I can't always tell what's what necessarily, so I don't want to look at every correspondence.
Raised Catholic, it's always funny. It's always funny when someone's like, you know what? Like, it was all fine when the Catholics were there, and then the Freemasons, they made it all bad, but they were fine before that. I was like, I think, and then you hear the Freemasons and the Quaker even, they'll be like, well, everything was horrible until the Freemasons came along, and the Catholics started messing with them, and it was fine until then. So it seems like there's just never been a real it's fine, or people have always been pretending it's fine and not getting along. And so I don't think it's fair to say the Catholics, that the Jesuits were destroyed by the Freemasons, because they still exist, and vice versa. Otherwise, a lot of the stuff he's talking about is true. There are definitely systems of organized power, and a cult is important. Like, it's not just esoteric occult, it's even just what's hidden in the community, who's running the community and how they work together.
He really dived deeply, like a lot more deeply than I think a lot of people give him credit for, because he I mean, like Renati pretty much invented synchro mysticism or whatever, like that whole thing
in the current way that it presents itself now in
Right.
terms of media, sure.
Yeah. Like his idea of the JFK assassination is like as a psychosexual circuit.
Right.
Like just this kind of language and reading of reality, and it's pretty great.
Well,
Like,
my
I hear what you're
takeaway
saying.
from the King Kill 33 too is that essentially in this case, Kennedy represented the energy of the entire nation, and that you want to remove that energy or transfer it. You want to be able to be the one that can control it. So by killing him, you have control over the entire nation's energy at that point, and then you get to decide where to transfer that energy. In this case, LBJ and what have you. But I love that concept of it, that it's literally just a transferring of energy at this like esoteric level.
Yeah. And that kind of brings me up what I was going to bring up earlier, which was James Franco, who's he's the time traveler in 11/22/63, goes back to try to stop Kennedy. James, another James.
He tried to throw my friend Judd out of the W Hotel in the Oscar night in 2010. But I was friends with the guy who ran the W Hotel. So I got us back in, and then we just started like, hey, look, it's us. Hi. Like kind of rudely at him. And now I feel bad because you don't want to burn bridges like that. But it is what it is.
Well, the other thing because it connects to Wizard of Oz, because he was in that Sam Raimi Wizard of Oz sequel.
Right.
I forget what Oz of the Great and Powerful
Right,
Oz.
which actually syncs with the Flaming Lips Dark Side of the Moon album, but I never uploaded that to the website because although it's a solid sync, I just can't stand the Henry Rollins, like him just doing those lines. Like I'm like, could you guys got like new lines or like something else? Like I've always been mad. I've never, maybe I have to explain why you're mad, even if you're not mad. But it's just like, I don't know. Like I want to like it, and I like the Flaming Lips. I just can't get down with the Dark Side of the Moon album, even though it syncs perfectly with.
Come on.
Well, that movie is about Oz. He flies into where the fucking Neverland? What is it?
Oz. He's from Kansas City, and he flies into Oz.
He flies to Oz, but so he's not
because
Oz.
OZ and
then he becomes the great Oz, because he has the technology of movies basically, and he comes in and he has this whole projected light show, which basically lets him take over the entire civilization. But he's like fighting against three witches, who are like the three witch sisters, that Mila Kunis and two other ladies.
How dare you start bringing up the Masonic compass at the 2-hour mark of the Wizard of Oz? We have to do a whole episode. We keep saying we're gonna do a whole episode on this, but keep going.
Well, and then so I found that because I was looking at there's another movie called The Witches of Eastwick, which Jack Nicholson is it's basically the same thing, where Jack Nicholson is kind of satanic, like he's literally Satan, but he kind of is in love with these three women that are, so there's this archetypal thing. And like the first time you see him, he's on his back on the floor, like in The Shining when he falls, and so
that is a lot like that, though. I kind of can see your relation to them.
Literally the same basic premise. And then like the end of that movie, he's entrapped in the TV, just like The Shining, essentially. And so he's impregnated them, but he's talking to his children through the television. It's pretty messed up.
Right. It's kind of Poltergeist also.
Yeah.
I
think there's like a
TV out of here.
And Willy Wonka. Right, with the little boy.
Oh yeah, very good. Which is also 2001. Are you talking about the?
I mean, I'm gonna have to mention Stay Tuned while we're on this topic too.
Oh my god!
Of course. Do love that. Stay tuned. All right. Well, that's actually probably a good way to say that. Is that we're gonna have to stay tuned. We should watch that movie again, and we should talk about Wizard of Oz maybe if you guys want next time, because I really do want to go deeper into Wizard of Oz. This is a very important thing, and I think we just started that. Alex, if you have time, join us, and Chris also. I'm going to fix your microphone and get you in a place where there aren't any jets. Having said that, as always, amazing content. Let me really quickly introduce where to get some of your content, though. ParanoidAmerican.com, greatest comic books in history. If you like MK Ultra, let me pull up that solo, actually. Hold on.
Yeah, this is the MK Ultra pamphlet based on Chick Tracts, and it breaks down the whole history of MK Ultra from paperclip on all the way to modern day. And you can get that on ParanoidAmerican.com.
I have a question I've been meaning to ask you. Can I ask it really quick, Mr. Sir or Thomas? You have like multiple comics that are like Kubrick themed comics, right? There's more.
I
than just one.
have Paranoid American History, which has a tiny little preview chapter of a much longer book called Never a Straight Answer that is like a 60-page graphic novel entirely on Kubrick directing the moon landings, and it's got all of the inside sort of little jokes and conspiracy theories that you'd expect.
Okay, so you got one, and it's a graphic novel.
Correct.
Okay, I want that. Well, I'm gonna see about that.
I'll send you an advanced copy right now. Actually, I'm glad you mentioned that because it's basically being held on hostage by me on Kickstarter until I get enough people signed up for it. So if you go onto my site,
okay, yeah,
go under comics and
Thank
do Never a Straight Answer, it'll basically bring you to a link on Kickstarter.
Cool.
Where do I find it? I don't even see it.
If you go up and then hover over comics at the very, very top, it'll be on like in the little drop down. Yeah, Never a Straight Answer.
Guys, you know what to do. We need this out. We need this for the people. Please.
It's ready, man. It's ready to come out. I just need to have enough people ready to get it so that when I drop it, it's not like doesn't become a full-time job just hounding everyone to grab a copy.
Right.
Everybody sign up now. This is nuts. We need to do this. This is important. Notify me on launch. Make sure you're notified.
We're close, man. Once it gets to 100, we're at 53. We were at like 4 at the beginning of the year, so it's moving.
I'll keep this window open. Make sure you also check out Eddie's work. Eddie had to leave because he's working on something that you probably will see in theaters or on Amazon, which is pretty hilarious. So we're like tapping in. Make sure you follow Eddie's work, though, because aside from the stuff he puts out for mainstream media, yeah, bro's deep in it with UFO research and synchronicity. Let's be real. This is pretty great. And he's talking about Taiwan. I wish we could have gone into Taiwan. We'll try to go into Taiwan when we talk about Oz. Also, David. You guys like David Plate, you'll love the Sync book, where you can get some of his movies. He's actually synchronized here. If you go down below Alan Green's Hindsight 2020, let's just give it a good shout out to this too. You should,
which is also relevant to the James Shelby Downer stuff, by the way. And that's an incredible documentary series that my friend did. Yeah.
You can jump in. It's like 3 hours of just based sync about 2020. It'll catch you up to right now. It's pretty good. I like it a lot. Sync Flicks, though, is David's work. Let me zoom out a bit. If you like Sync Flicks, here's the new one. Il Ladro del Arcobaleno.
Can you read that?
Yeah.
Yeah, Rainbow Thief. So yeah, so basically, really quickly, the story was, the production designer of the Rainbow Thief and the production company of the Rainbow Thief to be a Jodorowsky film, has stars in it. Peter O'Toole.
I was so upset when I found out I couldn't be designer because someone already was. Keep going.
So Paranoid American just saved my life. I owe him greatly because he found like an incredible copy of the Rainbow Thief. I might at some point go through. I probably will go through this and do volume in between the vocals just to experiment with that. If it turns out that I like that aesthetic, then I'll do that. But right now it's just straight silent Rainbow Thief with this album from Aldous Harding called Designer. And it's incredible resonant alignment that I'm very pleased with. And so I just put that up this week.
Peter O'Toole, like, it's honestly, I remember the last time I saw this movie and I downloaded it because I was going to try to find my copy of it, and it was about a week before Peter O'Toole died. I do this sometimes. I did with Robin Williams too. I just download their filmography and then I'll watch all of their movies. And then they'll die, and it'll just be like this horrible thing. So I try not to download people's filmographies anymore in case I'm cursed. But I remember watching this for the first time and being just like, "What, Jodorowsky? How could you?" I don't know. It's amazing,
right? So he hates this movie, and he hates it for the same reason that like David Lynch hates Dune. That Stanley Kubrick wasn't necessarily like feeling that great about Spartacus.
Like they could trade places though.
Yeah,
David Lynch wishes he made it this movie.
I know, right? But it's like this is filmed in Poland. I think probably some of the parts, like the ending sequences, are probably filmed in London. But it's Oliver Sharif. Like it's crazy.
And now I sleep side words you do not read with me.
That's probably about all I can get away with. But you guys get the point.
About that much. But so that musician too, Aldous Harding, she makes like her own music videos, and there's like for this album, there's like the single, I think it's The Barrel. It's like she or maybe it's another one of the videos, I forget, but she dresses up like Jodorowsky in the Holy Mountain with like the tall hat, you know, like what Jodorowsky wore when he officiated Marilyn Manson's wedding, you know. So she's got like the white platform shoes and she's doing this whole Jodorowsky thing, and it's like the way she relates to her videos and stuff. And not just that, but her deal around like the freedom to make the videos the way that she wants and how she has to fight and struggle to get them made with that vision in mind. So it's on multiple levels. It just, yeah. Anyway.
Right. Well, yeah. So make sure you also follow David on Twitter, because then you can find the link directly to all the sync flicks, and there's always a new one. He's always making new sync flicks, and they're freaking great. So make sure you watch them. And if you haven't already subscribed to Crypto Kubrology, make sure you do, because Alex is doing some crazy work all the time. And I hope you're back next time. We can do some more stuff on Wizard of Oz. And I love that you brought up Twister. You know, you're syncing on things where you're like, I don't know why this matters. I'm like, all I know is it does, because I've been watching it and thinking about it myself. And then we find out mid conversation that, you know, it's super connected in the weirdest way. Yeah, like the Close Encounters and Trains also is blowing my mind right now. But make sure you go check out his channel too. Don't just go on Twitter. Do them both. He's got a lot of interesting videos. This is the Sean fella that you're working with, right?
Yep, that's his YouTube channel.
Yeah,
my contributions.
Right. And then you can definitely subscribe here, where you'll find pretty deep sync research. I think it actually makes Twitter bearable. And yeah, get up on this stuff. And then Chris Vigil's got Symphony, which is, you know, we got to go deeper, Chris. I'm sorry. I know there's jet planes flying overhead and there's like bad mics, but some of the stuff that you've been bringing up, I mean, we're going to have to go even further into what's been going on, because life is emulating art and back and forth. And the IMDb stuff is just blowing my mind also.
Yeah, hopefully you can hear me right now. I'll be really quick. Hey, David, I keep trying to contact you. You've got to get a hold of me, man. We got to talk. And thanks a lot.
Yeah, you want to do a spaces thing? Yeah, I've been dealing with crazy shit in my life, but yes, soon. Let's do that.
I'm actually interested in setting up Twitter Spaces too. I have the pro account, so I can set. If you guys need any help, let's do some spaces. I've only done some really great Christian ones, and I'd be happy to talk about Kubrick and naked people. But make sure you go to symphony.com, because that's where you can get Chris Vigil's work, and it's pretty amazing and well up to date. And even though you might think because of his microphone, no. Like, because if you read this stuff, it's so detailed and so clear and academically well put together. So honestly, you're going to have to read this stuff to just really get the point.
It's going to get refreshed. I'm working on it as it goes. So like, get what you can and then come back later and see what more might be there. Apophediac is my YouTube. There's not much there, but subscribe. There's going to be stuff coming out. Here comes a jet.
Right. Yeah. All right.
It's like Wayne's World for him over there.
Yeah, that's kind of hilarious.
You know, you can do with your show. You can take a kiss your mother with that mouth. Sorry. Okay.
I do love Wayne's World. All right, guys, let's do this again next week, and we'll talk to you soon. And then tomorrow is Wednesday Ultra. I love you all. Take care of yourselves. Peace out.
See you later.
Hello. Welcome to the Exatus.